days to Osun decides. INEC meets those that matter. APC bigwigs storm Osogbo, markets candidates to electorate.
Just to extend Nigerian laws into Nigerian cyberspace, to make sure whatever is illegal offline is illegal online.
Plus, federal government keeps abusers of cyberspace on check. Defaulters to face state might. Hello and welcome to NTA Network News at 9. I am Ian Ray John. Tonight, Hingano John Adams will be reading with me from Lagos. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget, you can follow this news broadcast live on our website, nta.ng/live, and all our social media platforms displayed on the screen for updates. The former governor of Borno State, Senator Ali Modu Sharif, has described as welcoming and most appropriate the confirmation of Kashim Shettima as vice presidential candidate for the APC for the 2023 election. This was while speaking to newsmen after an audience with President Muhammadu Buhari in Daura, Katsina State. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
Former Governor Ali Modu Sharif was in Daura at the head of a delegation of personalities from Borno State to pay great respect and honor to President Muhammadu Buhari. This was in the spirit of the Eid al-Kabir Salah celebrations. During the engagement that lasted about 1 hour, President Buhari and his guests discussed several national issues, but details were not disclosed. NTA News, however, sought to know from the former governor of Borno State and critical stakeholder of the APC his views on the recent confirmation of Senator Kashim Shettima as running mate to the APC presidential candidate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
It is a very good development. Kashim Shettima, someone who was with me, I literally brought him out from the bank, made him my commissioner for 5 years also, and he worked in all the ministries, finance, education, local government. So he has gotten a lot of experience in governance, and he's a very intelligent young man. So I think he can complement the ticket very well.
Senator Ali Modu Sharif, who at one time served as acting national chairman of the PDP, speaks on the chances of the governing APC to win the next general elections.
I will tell you clearly that it is a tough election, but we in the APC are tough people. We know the terrain, we have done it before, and we will do it again. You don't expect to see Ali Sharif losing his state or any one of us. We are going to make sure that we win the whole of the Northeast. I'm sure Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will win the Southwest. The Northwest, where 6 out of the 7 governors of the APC, PDP doesn't stand any chance of winning. So you will see. You are a journalist, you are more on ground, but I can clearly tell you that we'll win our elections, inshallah.
The former governor used the opportunity to applaud President Muhammadu Buhari for his selfless, purposeful and impactful leadership of the country, saying posterity will judge him kindly. From Daura, Katsina State, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And still in Daura, it was a remarkable feeling of nostalgia as President Muhammadu Buhari had an emotional reunion with his old class schoolmates at his Daura country home. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
Fond memories were brought back during the exciting moment, which also provided the opportunity to thank Allah for sparing their lives to meet once again as President Muhammadu Buhari continues to further the cause of national rebirth, salvation and prosperity. Members of the group under the auspices of the Association of 1953 Middle School Intake were 96 at formation, but only 25 are now surviving as 71 of them passed away. President Buhari and his guests prayed for the repose of those that died between last year, when they last met and now. The Nigerian leader inquired about each individual's health and well-being as well as their family members. He expressed his joy and happiness for the meeting, saying he got the same feeling that he used to have when they were young. They chatted for a while, talked about the school days and shared a lot of memories. The president thanked the schoolmates for their respect and feelings for him, which they have retained all these years. Senator Abba Ali led members of the association to the interactive engagement with the president.
I can say that in the history of Nigerian politics, there wasn't a government that have shown interest in the development of ordinary people like his own government. I'm proud to say it, and we wish him all the best. His tenure is coming to an end, and we wish him a longer life to enjoy the fruits of what he has sown. What we are hoping is that the next coming government will build up on the foundation he laid down. Right from childhood, he is somebody who is reserved, who is honest and sincere.
Senator Abba Ali commended the sacrifices the president had been making and urged him to maintain focus on the nation, which he said is more important than anything else. From Daura, Katsina State, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And on the emergence of Senator Kashim Shettima's APC vice presidential candidate, it has been described as the best decision ever made by the party, considering his track records during the 8 years of stewardship as governor of Borno State. This formed part of submissions by stakeholders in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, following the recent pronouncement by the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu of a running mate from Borno. Yagumsu Bukar reports.
Equity, justice, fairness, demands.
From a university lecturer, banking executive, a commissioner with experience in several ministries, two-term governor, and a senator of repute, Kashim Shettima proved his mettle in the service of humanity. Therefore, the decision by APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu to pick Senator Kashim Shettima as his running mate did not come as a surprise to many in Borno, who described the team as a game changer.
Bola Tinubu will find in him. He's a very good character. His humility, his dedication, and hard working need not to be over-emphasized. Most importantly, he's a true nationalist.
I have no doubt that Shettima, I'm sure he is equal to the task, and he will going to perform better to actualize the dream of APC in 2023.
We are going to make our own contribution to rebuild Nigeria, to contribute to the peace of this country, and certainly Kashim Shettima is going to make that contribution.
It's a good choice because having people that have the knowledge, background about the country, about the economic, and people that can be able to give hope.
Kashim Shettima is a kind of person that will go out of his way at his own inconvenience just to make sure he pleases other people.
This is the second time in almost 62 years of Nigeria's history as a sovereign entity that Borno State is producing a vice presidential candidate after Ambassador Babagana Kingibe of the Social Democratic Party as running mate of Chief Moshood Abiola. In Maiduguri, Yagum Subukar, NTA News.
Still on politics, but now heading to Osun, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, and other leaders of the party across the country stormed Osogbo, the Osun State capital, to drum up support for the re-election of Governor Gboyega Oyetola on Saturday, July 16. Bolaji Akim was at the APC mega rally in Osogbo and now reports.
All roads lead to Osogbo for the grand finale of the APC campaign towards the re-election of Gboyega Oyetola as the next governor of Osun State. The mega rally attended by APC leaders, including party's presidential hopeful Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of the Senate Ahmed Lawan, the national chairman of the party Abdullahi Adamu, and all the progressive governors, was not only to canvass votes for Governor Oyetola, but to remind the mammoth crowd of those lofty developments under the Buhari-led administration and the achievement of Oyetola across all sectors in the last 4 years.
For APC. We testify to the fact that Governor Buhari has done so much since assuming office in this state.
Other party stalwarts, including the President of the Senate, noted that voting Oyetola back to power means consolidation of the development strides as they appeal to the people to go out en masse and vote for APC as the only masses-oriented party.
Here we have a governor who is prudent. We have a governor who is economic. And we have a governor who is efficient with very meager resources. Governor Oyetola has indeed performed exceedingly very well. I have been on campaign trail with him. I have gone to Musa Granny or Osun with him. And people are saying that indeed Governor Oyetola is deserving of another time. We have done it 4 years ago. APC was elected and Oyetola was elected. That time he was elected based on what he can do. Now we are presenting him for the election based on what he has done.
Governor Oyetola reassured the Osun electorate of his commitment to a better Osun and his people if re-elected.
Welfare, maintain salary, food, the well due, supported the workers in the area of welfare, implemented minimum wage.
APC National Chairman used the mega rally to publicly present Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the presidential standard bearer of APC in the 2023 general election. In Osogbo, Bolaji Akim, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has assured the electorate in Osun that their votes will solely determine who becomes the next governor of the state. The INEC chairman gave the assurance during Osun governorship election stakeholders meeting in Osogbo. Femi Afariogun reports that the Inspector General of Police attended the meeting.
It is few days to Osun governorship election, one of the off-season elections in Nigeria. At a time like this, INEC usually holds what is termed stakeholders meeting with participating political parties, traditional rulers, and civil society organizations to determine level of preparation ahead of the governorship election. INEC states its stand, which is to organize a free, fair, credible, and inclusive election.
76% of the registered voters in Osun State have already collected their PVCs. We are also updating our records to provide detailed breakdown of PVCs collected by polling units. INEC will not take any step to the advantage or disadvantage of any political party or any candidate.
With 21,000 police personnel deployed in Osun State, the Inspector General of Police Alkali Baba warned those planning to disrupt the election to think twice.
We shall equally leave no stone unturned or nobody in doubt in our determination to give effect to Mr. President's charge to ensure free, fair, and credible election in Osun State.
Please, we are praying and begging and appealing to all of you, do not incite the youth of our there peaceful state. Do not use every means of desperation that you want to get there by all means.
The paradigm shift to vote buying is one area agreed by all to be strategically looked into, with stakeholders describing the outcome of Ekiti election as impressive. The Osun governorship election on 16 July will be another litmus test for the electoral umpire before the 2023 general elections. In Osogbo, Femi Afariogun, NTA News.
More news and politics after this break. Please stay with us.
One of the reasons why I started Munira, I wanted to make people feel good about what they were. I lost my dad in 2008.
The day where the man died. I don't want to remember. School fees come the adults. Things no can't go for me again.
My journey with MTN started in 2014. I remember the night I told my mom I had gotten the scholarship. It was midnight. I went to the room, I woke her up and I said, I've gotten a scholarship.
Oh, happy. Neighbor week.
The tagline for the YEDP program was "Turn It Up." The funding has helped me turn my dream on. My ambition is to be successful, impact lives, and generally just make people happy.
Glovo is the app that brings you anything you want. Like a great burger and chilling after work. Or what you need from the supermarket, sharp. Even from diapers to escape real wahala. Download the app, order a Glovo, and we get it.
It's a brand new day, cause you've got energy for today, energy for tomorrow, energy for today, energy for tomorrow.
Watch out for the new NNPC, 19th July 2022.
Madam, how much lasts for this bag of rice?
Customer, I don't give you better price now.
Madam, do well, I go come out.
Oh yeah, come pay. How you want take pay now? You want take go take pay for bag of rice? You be Mongo Park? See, make I tell you, times don't change.
My country people, before, our people they use different things as money, trade by barter, cowries. Today, we know money as Naira note. But because say the only thing when they constant na change, Central Bank of Nigeria don't introduce e-Naira. E-Naira, na the same thing as Naira. 1 e-Naira equal to 1 Naira. E-Naira go dey inside your phone. E-Naira no dey tear, e no dey heavy. E dey easy to transfer and you fit use am buy and sell just like Naira note. To begin use e-Naira, ask your bank. This message now from the Bankers Committee.
Every morning is an opportunity to take your hustle to the next level. Every morning is one day closer to your mission. So, make every morning count. Morning after morning. Start strong. Finish strong. Nescafe.
The Industrial Training Fund, ITF, cordially invites policymakers, technocrats, captains of industry, skills acquisition experts, and other stakeholders to the second National Skills Summit with the theme, Institutionalizing Apprenticeship and Traineeship System for National Development. The Honorable Minister, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, FMITI, Otumba Richard Adeniyi Adebayo, CON, will be the special guest, while the Honorable Minister of State, FMITI, Ambassador Mariam Yalwaji Katagum, and the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Dame Pauline Talem, will be the guests of honor. The Director General and Chief Executive of ITF, Sir Joseph Ari, KSM, KSS, will be the chief host. Speakers at the event are the Chairman of Oil and Gas Free Zone, Dr. Chris Chikozere Asoluka, International Technical Advisor, Skills for Prosperity, UK, Mr. Mike Dawes, and Professor Nkemdele A.U. Nanyelu of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. The summit is scheduled to take place as follows. Date, Thursday, 15 July 2022. Time, 10 a.m. Venue, Ladi Kwali Hall, Sheraton Hotels and Towers, Abuja. Guests are to be seated by 9:30 a.m. ITF Management Announcer.
We are back.
It's Dangote Bag of Goodies Season 3. Yes, spell Dangote and become a multi-millionaire. Category 1, pick up the scratch card in bags of Dangote cement and win instantly. Category 2, pick up the scratch cards in bags of Dangote cement to spell DANGOTE and qualify to win a $1 million star prize. Category 3, pick up the scratch cards in bags of Dangote cement to spell DANGOTE and qualify to win $5 million mega star prize. When you pick an alphabet with an eagle, one of the alphabets must carry the Dangote Eagle logo for you to win the mega star prize. Terms and conditions apply.
Thank you for staying. Deliberating on the importance of voters' card in promoting unity formed part of the meeting organized by the All Progressives Congress stakeholders in Daura zone. Sani Bashir captured the meeting and sent in this report.
The APC stakeholders meeting, which brought together stalwarts and supporters of the party from the national, state and local government levels, was aimed at deliberating on issues affecting the party in Daura zone. It also serves as an avenue to identify ways of ensuring victory of the party in 2023 general elections. Stakeholders described the meeting as timely, which they said will help in promoting unity among members of the party, calling on the members to enlighten public on the importance of voters' card. The APC National Legal Advisor, Ahmad Usman El Marzouk, stressed the need for all eligible voters to register and obtain their voters' card, which he said is the only means of electing leaders.
I would like to enjoy all party members that they should please mobilize themselves and their followers for the ongoing APC administration so that we will increase the number of people that will cast their vote to the victory of the APC, our great party.
He therefore challenged all party members to redouble effort towards enlightening public to ensure victory of the party in 2023 general elections. From Daura, Sani Basiru, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the national leadership of the All Progressives Congress is reaching out to all aggrieved members in the aftermath of the party's primaries to ensure unity ahead of the general elections. One of the team mandated for this assignment has visited Jigawa State, from where Awal Mohammed Kazari reports.
The team, led by the Zonal Vice Chairman Northwest Saluhu Lukman, said their mission in Jigawa State is to meet with party leadership and aggrieved members of the party to further cement existing relationship that will lead APC to victory in the 2023 general elections. The Zonal Vice Chairman commended the APC in Jigawa State for constituting local reconciliation committee that will make their assignment easy.
We want to win the election, and we want to ensure whatever problem exists in every state is resolved before the election, so that everybody is working for the victory of the party. All we need to do is to give them all the support required so that all the problems are resolved.
So, and all members, all the stakeholders are here, and we have discussed, they have complained, they have raised their issues, and then the party has taken note of those issues, and definitely will take them forward to the national headquarters for resolution.
The state deputy governor, who is also the party's governorship standard bearer, pledged to work with the national committee to promote unity of members. From Dutse, Awal Muhammad Kazaure, NTA News.
And still on the 2023 general elections, the Federal High Court has issued a new practice direction that would ensure fair, impartial and expeditious determination of pre-election matters. In the Federal High Court Pre-Election Practice Direction 2022, issued by the Chief Judge of the Court, Justice John Soho, parties are to minimize time spent on interlocutory matters. Parties are equally expected to explore possibility of settlement before going into hearing, and to also minimize undue adjournments and delays in the conduct of matters. A party challenging the conduct or the outcome of a primary election shall join as a respondent in the suit. The person who emerged winner of the said election, or whose name was forwarded by his political party to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, under the Electoral Act 2022. Only the Federal High Court has jurisdiction over pre-election matters. Another news, President Muhammadu Buhari congratulates Abdul Samad Rabiu, chairman of BOA Group, on his reappointment as president of the France-Nigeria Business Council by the president of France, Emmanuel Macron. The president commends Rabiu for his pivotal role in nudging forward the objectives of the association inaugurated a year ago, and for retaining the trust and confidence of members of the Strategic Council. The President acknowledges with delight that under 1 year of Rabiu's leadership, the Council has recorded appreciable progress in plans by some of Nigeria's biggest banks to set up subsidiaries in France. BUA's partnership with Access France to build a 200,000 barrels per day refinery in Akwa Ibom State, among others. President Buhari assures the chairman of BUA and pioneer president of the Council of Federal Government's support as top business leaders continue to build a strategic partnership aimed at improving business relations between the two countries, as well as supporting the economic program of governments in the areas of infrastructural development, agriculture, power, job, and wealth creation. Now, moving on, the federal government has given the contractor handling the maintenance of Jimeta Bridge in Adamawa State 2 weeks to mobilize the site, as laxity in handling projects will not be tolerated by the government. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, stated this during an inspection tour of the bridge and other projects being executed by the federal government in the state. Yusuf Jika reports.
Data Bridge was constructed more than 40 years ago, and since then the bridge has made socio-economic activities of Adamawa and neighboring states and countries easy. The bridge is seeking quick intervention as many parts required maintenance, hence the effort by the federal government in awarding contract to that effect. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, accompanied by Minister of Transportation, Maazu Sambo Jaji, inspected the bridge and called for quick action. Also inspected by the SGF is Yola Mubi Road, upgrading project of Federal Medical Center Hong and Hong Dabna Gombe Road to be constructed by the Northeast Development Commission.
This is a major artery that connects the entire northern senatorial district, half of the central senatorial district with the northern senatorial district, all the way to Borno and to the Cameroon.
During his engagements in Adamawa, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, has condoled the family of late Muhammadu Sanusi Barkindo and visited the national headquarters of Church of the Brethren to sympathize with the church over the killing of 2 of its members by a non-gunman recently in Jairi Hong local government area of the state. According to many, the visit by the SGF is worthwhile considering numerous achievements recorded in Adamawa State by the Buhari-led administration. In Yola, Yusuf Jika, NTA News.
Now looking at health, rural dwellers in southern Kaduna will no longer travel far to seek medical attention with the inauguration of a multi-million naira specialist hospital in Kaguru of Kaura local government area in Kaduna State. The center, which is a private sector initiative, consists of skills acquisition center designed to empower host communities. Kim Quartz reports that this is part of the gesture of Jennifer Etu Foundation in fulfillment of the dream of late Mrs. Jennifer Etu, who desires provision of health care to the common man.
Jennifer Ethu Specialist Hospital, located at Malagum Village in Kaguru, is built on 12-hectare land, comprising 6 wards, which include outpatients department, special care baby unit, ophthalmology clinic. Also, there is diagnostic center for cervical cancer screening room, X-ray and ultrasound scanning machine, while the skill acquisition center is well equipped with necessary facilities needed for training, which is expected to impact knowledge to unskilled youths in the area. Inaugurating the project, Chairman Jennifer Ethu Foundation, Mr. Thomas Ethu, said the project has fulfilled his aspiration to provide what his late wife desired for her community.
As we commission this facility, this medical facility, our prayer is for God to keep answering the prayers of my late wife, which was to bring relief to many so that they don't go through the sickness, many pain she went through.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan and Governor Nasir El-Rufai, in a message, commended the initiative and called on the people of the area to ensure the sustainability of the project.
My brother Thomas, I believe you have honored your wife beyond her imagination. By this project, you have touched the hearts of humanity. Prayer that this facility will be used for the benefit of the community to ensure that healthcare services are provided.
The project, which is second of its kind, will be replicated in 6 geopolitical zones of the country. Kim Gotts, NTA News.
From Kaduna, we head to Lagos, where Hingano is standing by to give us more news. Hingano, it's over to you.
Thank you, Ian Ray. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, says exploring the hospitality sector is a veritable tool for economic growth and development. Olumide Oguntola reports that the minister emphasized this at an event in Lagos where tourism and hospitality were promoted.
The tourism and hospitality sector no doubt plays a major role in the socio-economic development of any nation. This essence brought the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, to Lagos to witness the inauguration of the Art Hotel on the island. The minister used the occasion to urge Nigerians to patronize made in Nigerian goods and services.
The Art Hotel is a new addition to the hospitality industry in Nigeria. And this is going to help in boosting domestic tourism. It's unique in the sense that it's a combination of both, hospitality and art at the same time. Because we have a gallery here of contemporary art and also collection. But I think the most important thing is that when we have private sector people, investing in Nigeria at this time, I think it proves one thing, that Nigeria is still a good place to invest.
He commended the private sector and appealed to the players to further partner with the government to grow the sector, as the federal government is committed to develop domestic tourism.
We do not have enough beds, we don't have enough hotels, we want the opportunity to invite all entrepreneurs at one area where they can invest and make returns easily and quickly with the industry.
The Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Obafemi Hamzat, and some dignitaries buttressed the minister's point.
They told us that in the whole of Brazil, they do not see any hotel as our hotel. So this is happening to
I just want to say to the Nigerian people that we're very talented and we should not lose faith in our country. We should look inwards. We should be patriotic and persevere.
Everything about this project was handled wholly by Nigerians, and that is the capacity that we have locally and that many more people should patronize.
We'll continue to facilitate, to promote and encourage more people to come and invest.
Arts works on display showcased the rich cultural heritage of Nigeria. In Lagos, Olumide Oguntola, NTA News.
Lagosians continue to bear the brunt of flooding as the rain intensifies. Annie Daniels, who went around the metropolis, reports.
Rains, rains, rains. Why not? It is the season. The roads are flooded. Human and vehicular traffic are absent.
Being the last day of the Salah, I suppose use the privilege to visit a lot of places. But being the rain has been messed up everything.
Not everybody is government worker. I think you're understanding. So as a man, I must to work out this morning. Either the rain is falling or the sun is shining. The man must to go out and look for what to do for a living.
At the very popular Jibo Motor Park, commercial buses and cars are parked with few passengers inside, while those scouting for more passengers do so under the rain.
I've been here 7 o'clock, and this will be like a 12 to 14 hour journey. I'll be going to River State by like 12 o'clock in the night.
Any Salah break like this, people will travel will load more than 10 vehicles, but these days it's just 2.
We are short of customers because of the rain.
This recreation center in Lagos is one that attracts lots of people during festive periods like Salah, Christmas and Easter holidays. Today, however, the story is different.
Why? Because of the weather, as you can see, the rain is falling and all that.
They actually promised to make provisions for canopies for me, so that people that will attend the event wouldn't get wet.
The Lagos-Oshodi Expressway is busy as usual, while traffic warden stands are without the original owners. My respondents are sure the rains will continue, but say they would adjust to the situation as flooding persists annually in the city. In Lagos, Annie Daniels, NTA News.
It's time for another breather, but before then, we would like to remind you to follow this news broadcast live on our website at nta.ng/live and on our other social media handles displayed on your screen for updates.
It's a brand new day, cause you got nothing for today, nothing for tomorrow, nothing for today, nothing for tomorrow.
Watch out for the new NNPC, 19th July 2022.
The Loan Executive Council, under the leadership of Pastor Dr. E.S. Awojide, JP, National Vice President, TACN and Loaner Territorial Chairman, and the Apostolic Church Nigeria, Abuja FCT Area Loaner Territory, under the leadership of Pastor J.O.A. Fadigbe, Abuja FCT Area Superintendent, Metro Areas Chairman and Convener, invites the general public to the 23rd FCT Annual Convention. Theme: No Man Can Serve Two Masters. Date: Friday 15th to Sunday 17th July 2022. Friday 4 p.m., Saturday and Sunday 9 a.m. respectively. Venue: the Apostolic Church Nigeria, Abuja FCT Area Headquarters, Plot 494, Durumi District, Garki, Abuja FCT. Come and be blessed. Overseer S.O. Adebite, Convention Committee Secretary, and Pastor L.O. Adeyemo, Convention Committee Chairman, announces.
What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Millions of Nigerians have received COVID-19 vaccine. I have taken my own. What about you? We have taken our own. What about you? I am strong and healthy. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? We are strong and healthy. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Go and get your job. The hospitals, churches, and the mosques. Go and get your job. Health centers, hurry up now. Don't be late. Go and get your job. Bye bye, Corona. Bye bye, Corona. This message is brought to you by the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, NPHCDA.
Wake up the champion in your child. Give them energy to go further. Milo Active Go and the natural goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa helps wake up the champion in your child.
Music is fuel that fires up our soul. Today, African music has a dominant place on the world map. This massive music movement creating waves across the globe.
I have seen the evolution and the growth of this industry.
But every movement starts with a story. And the best place to start any story is at the very beginning.
There's a harmonious energy that can only have come from Africa.
Every morning is an opportunity to take your hustle to the next level. Every morning is one day closer to your ambition. So, make every morning count. Cup after cup, morning after morning. Start strong, finish strong. Nescafe.
Enjoy carbo cocoa, fortified with vital-rich plus iron.
Glad to have you back. The federal government of Nigeria, through the Federal Ministry of Finance, the Joint Tax Board, JTB, in collaboration with the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, is commencing enforcement exercise on the 14 taxpayers. Executive Chairman, FIRS, Muhammad Nami, says full-scale enforcement exercise, including prosecution of offenders who did not take advantage of the scheme's voluntary assets and income declaration scheme and pay taxes due on them, and in return obtain amnesty from prosecution, among other benefits, for a 12-month period from the 1st of July 2017 are to pay for damages. This post-Vades enforcement and prosecution exercise is coming on the heels of data from the National Bureau of Statistics that over 68 million businesses were active in Nigeria, while less than 20 million of these were active taxpayers. And away from tax matters, most people who know their way around the cyberspace are now enjoying the quality of life such information and communication technology tool brings. But it's not all that jolly anymore on the digital space for some people who see the space as haven for nefarious activities, as the federal government has developed a set of rules to sanitize the digital space. Chimdima Undubisi will tell us how this code of practice for online platforms has been received.
With just a click or two on this information superhighway called the internet, interactions and access to information are achieved from anywhere across the globe. Since there are no rules of engagement here except some self-censorship by online managers, disinformation, misinformation, cyberbullying have become the norm. So, countries such as the United States of America, United Kingdom, Canada, and the European Union have risen to the challenge by developing a set of principles that will bring sanity to online activities. Towing this line, Nigeria, through the National Information Technology Development Agency, has come up with its code of practice to regulate online operations with inputs from big techs that manage these online platforms. Nigerian Communications Commission and National Broadcasting Commission. The Code of Practice sets out procedures to protect fundamental human rights of online users and guards against online harms. It also elicits accountability from operators regarding unlawful and harmful contents.
It's just to extend Nigerian laws into Nigerian cyberspace to make sure whatever is illegal offline is illegal online, and also making sure there is digital diplomacy between Nigeria and these big techs.
Online platforms are to have a registered physical office and pay taxes in Nigeria. Owen is an online newspaper journalist. He says, in the digital space where everyone has turned out to be a journalist, the code is necessary.
There should be a kind of regulation for everything that is done. I'm really happy because you have to oversee things. If you don't oversee things and allow people to do it the way they like, it will not be good.
But others seem to differ.
Already there's already cyber law.
Nobody putting chains on the legs of online media platforms. Government must have a section that responds to misinformation and disinformation.
For now, the code is in its draft copy with collated public inputs to be reviewed before the final copy is released. In Abuja, Chimdema Ndubisi, NTA News.
Now looking at security, African Union has donated a large consignment of a variety of military equipment and logistics to the multinational joint task force to help strengthen security in the Lake Chad region. Force Commander MNJTF Major General Abdul Khalifa Ibrahim, who took delivery of the hardware at the May Malari Cantonment, Maiduguri, handed over items to Sector 3 MNJTF Mongano in northern Borno. Maimuna Garba reports.
The huge military hardware and other logistics donated by the African Union will be shared among sectors of member states of the Multinational Joint Task Force. Briefing newsmen, the Force Commander MNJTF Major General Abdul Khalifa Ibrahim disclosed that already Niger has benefited from the AU's gesture, while that of Chad and Cameroon will be handed over their consignment at a later date. The Force Commander had, while appreciating African Union for the support, said the military hardware will improve and enhance the combat efficiency of troops.
The MNJTF facilitated the travel of 6 personnel from Sector 3 to the African Union logistic base in Douala for training. Therefore, we envisage that these 6 personnel will also teach others on how to use this equipment.
Theater Commander Operation Hadinkai, Major General Christopher Musa said the AU support is an indication of good synergy between the Nigerian military and the African Union member nations and European Union.
To the international community, we want to appeal that if we continue to have things like this, we can assure them that there will be total peace in the northeast, and which will transcend down to north central, northwest, and all over the country and the region in general.
Commander Sector 3 MNJTF Mongunu, Major General Godwin Michael Mutkud, thanked the Force Commander for facilitating the delivery of the equipment and assured to put all the hardware into good use for the restoration of peace and safety in the Lake Chad area. The military hardware donated by the African Union include 4 armored personnel carriers, an automatic grenade launcher, and state-of-the-art mines detector, among others. In Maiduguri, Maimuna Garba, NTA News.
Heading to Akwa Ibom State now, the government has approved an immediate intervention and permanent solution to the erosion menace in Nkpok axis of Eket local government area. Susan Esu reports.
The desire of Governor Dom Emmanuel's administration is to ensure that all ongoing or pending projects are completed within the few months to the end of the administration's life. The Executive Council meeting, therefore, is to assess the level of progress made by different ministries. Food security has been a top priority of this administration, and the Commissioner for Agriculture, Dr. Ofiong Ofor, in her presentation during the ESCO meeting, says all government plantations are performing optimally, while the Commissioner for Special Duties and Ibom Deep Seaport, Bob, says the construction of apron and new terminal building at the Victor Ota International Airport are progressing at advanced stages. On environmental and erosion issues, the Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Ini Ememabong, briefed Government House correspondents.
Commissioner for Environment and Solid Minerals presented a report on the flood situation in the state, profiling the entire flood situation in the state. He reported that the major flood control project, which is the IPB flood control project, is on course. ESCO approved the immediate intervention and a permanent solution to the erosion problems which manifested in Eket recently.
In Uyo, Susan Esu, NTA News.
Kano State government is creating conducive environment for the promotion of agricultural activities through the provision of fertilizer. Yahanasu Hassan reports.
Poor seeds, poor agronomic practices and the use of traditional implements have over the years remained triple triggers to a tragedy of low yields and growing inefficiency among farmers in Nigeria. The narrative, according to researchers, is gradually changing in the country thanks to concerted efforts by government and their development partners. This is the case with the Kano Agro-Pastoral Development Project, supported by Islamic Development Bank and the Lives and Livelihoods Funds, which within 2 years of implementation has supported thousands of farmers with inputs, simple implements and training.
They have changed their farming pattern, their production has increased in terms of value addition,
a lot of enterprise centers have now been established across the local governments where we are working.
These stakeholders are here as witnesses to these trenches of inputs procured for distribution to farmers across the 44 local government areas of the state.
Actually imported some, but our fabricators in Nigeria, local fabricators, can fabricate much better than this.
Satisfied with the development, the Regional Director, Communications Ethiopia Tracer, said Sasakawa Africa will continue to train extension agents on better agronomic practices. In Kanu, Yahana Sahasa, NTA News.
Time for another break. Please stay.
Your PVC ready. Conduct yourselves orderly. Join the queue. Cast your vote secretly. Thumbprint correctly. Do not waste your vote. Do not sell your vote. Secure your future. If you sell your vote, you have sold good roads, electricity, water, education, good health care, etc. Be part of nation building. Cast your vote for honest candidates. Shun electoral violence. You could lose your life for nothing, for nothing, for nothing. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
And now a bit of sports. Nigeria's male handball team, the R's, about to Cape Verde 35-29 in second match at Continental Championship in Egypt. For more on sports, let's join Gift George.
The president, Nigerian Modern Pentathlon Federation, Jonathan Naji, says sports-loving Nigerians should expect the country's name on the world map again and rewrite sports success story in gold. To achieve this set goal, the federation is taking different steps, which include the induction of sports philanthropist Joseph Ebioism as the patron of the federation. The federation also sets the ball rolling for its newly elected board member, Francis Chima.
We'll encourage them, we'll bring the board matter into consideration.
We are working tirelessly to see that the sport becomes a household name in Nigeria.
In other news, the Lagos State government says it is fully committed to refurbishing and upgrading all existing sporting facilities in the state to meet up with international requirements.
All our fields are under construction. If you go to Advertisements Stadium now, they're working there day and night. If you go to Onikon Stadium, it's a finished job already. You know, it's an hybrid. And once it's been handed over to the state governments, it will start work fully.
Meanwhile, Nigeria on Monday joined the rest of the world to celebrate the 2022 World Population Day with a novelty football match played in Abuja. Team Nigeria in lemon jersey emerged victorious after scoring 2 unreplied goals against Team World.
Football is one veritable area where we have not had so much invested in Nigeria, particularly when you look at the infrastructure in terms of provision of football pitches.
With sports update, Gift George, NTA News.
Let's now take a quick peep at the weather outlook for Wednesday.
Welcome. Wednesday morning is expected to be relatively quiet and calm. However, there's still prospects of thunderstorms over the northwest, places like Kano, Katsina, Kaduna, Kebbi, and Zamfara states, with possibilities of light rains over Nasarawa, FCT, Niger, and the coastal parts of Akwa Ibom and Cross River states. As we head into the afternoon and evening hours, moderate rains are expected over the southern region, with better chances of thunderstorms over the central and parts of the northeastern region of the country. I'm Theodora Itum. Thank you for watching.
All right, that's what the weather holds for us for tomorrow. But right here on the NTA, a documentary on 7 years and the giant strides in the railway development by the Buhari administration comes up tonight at 10:05 p.m. on the network service of the NTA. All stations are advised to hook up. And that concludes NTA Network News tonight. Many thanks for your time. And please remember, the fight against rape and rapists is still on. Do your part. I'm Yen Ray John. Have a good night.
Information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the U-Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app, your access to real-time information.
Amidst the heat and dry air, the sound of drumming and singing can be heard as groups of young men watch boxers prepare for a Dundee match. The crowd eagerly awaits for the match to commence as bets are being placed and money changes hands. When the fight starts, the men turn their attention to the boxers. The large crowd absorbed as slaps and punches are thrown during the round. As a fist connects with the jaw, an opponent finally falls to the ground and the crowd goes wild. While they await the start of another brutal round, much younger contestants arrive, ready themselves for match 2. Eventually, the next round begins and the boxers circle each other in a sandy ring as everyone awaits until only one is left standing.
Wannan labarin ma yana peji na 36.
Ita kuma babban labarin wannan jarida shine ainihin
babban labarin da ake gaban jaridar shine ta bayyana cewa
ko kuwa ji kan eziokwu
nwanne m nwoke
Ikechukwu ndukwe ido ma iji wee mee ka ụbọchị na-aga n'anya ya
nation fún ti òwúrọ̀ yìí ibẹ̀ náà ti sọ pé àwọn ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ ìpínlẹ̀ Benue pàṣẹ wípé
ní gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀ka ní ẹ̀ka ètò ẹ̀kọ́ ní ẹ̀ka ètò ìlera ní ẹ̀ka ètò ààbò.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Motlalo, Nigeria are the 9th champions in this competition.
The 12th edition of the Africa Women's Cup of Nations is here with 12 teams including reigning champions and 9-time winners, Super Falcons of Nigeria, all in contention from July 2 to 23 in Rabat, Morocco. You can catch all the actions live on the NTA Network Service and NTA Sports 24, Channel 270 on StarTimes, 434 on StarSat and 731 on Free TV. Come, join us to promote another championship run by the Super Falcons. For your advert placement, please call Hawa on 0803-312-1022. Africa Women's Cup of Nations, Rabat 2022. Game on!
The rumbling of the tracks as the train whistled to a halt at one of the busiest train stations in Africa. Mobolaji Johnson Station, located at Ibutemeta, Lagos State. This station has the capacity to accommodate hundreds of passengers at a seating.
The comfort with, here you can charge your phone, there's AC and all of that. Things you cannot get when you use public buses. So you realize that if you look at the comfort and all of that, this is better. going interstate from Lagos to Ibadan or Abuja or any other states. This is better now.
It's like a clear sign that my parents' taxes have been working.
This is a game changer in many respects. And it is a pity that we don't always look at those things that we should be proud of. Rather, we look at our challenges. We don't look at our achievements. This is a huge achievement for every Nigerian. And every Nigerian should be proud to be part of this.
This rail line has 11 stations along the corridor linking Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo states.
Lagos, Ibadan, when you compare it, we already have 25 railway bridges. If you look at what we are doing between other countries, maybe they don't even need any bridge. They don't have cost to build bridges or railways. And then Lagos, Ibadan, we pass through gorges, deep cutting areas and all that. And if you have been on that corridor before, you know what I'm talking about. Then here we have other facilities. Yes. The corridor is furnished with 33 kV electrical power supply system. We have the signaling that is not available in most other African projects. That is a full automatic signaling system, GSM communication system. These are the modern facilities in railway science. Okay, and then we have numbers of freight yards on this line. Then it's complemented by maintenance facilities in 2-3 places just between these 102 kilometers. Okay, we have locomotive maintenance depot for rolling stocks, offices, and all that are you find in Kajola, you find in Abuja, you find in Ibadan, and in Lagos.
It has provided a more reliable and comfortable alternative means of transportation for many who avoid the long hours spent on gridlock at the Ibadan Expressway.
The traffic is always very serious, it's always terrible. You can spend 3-4 hours on the road. This one I have planned myself. We left Lagos 8 o'clock. I already planned at 10:30 I'm going to be here, and I got there exactly 10:30. So you can plan your journey while even using the train. I think it's a very awesome experience using the train.
Very nice experience. I like it. The timing is good. The comfort in the cabins are good. The temperature, everything about it is very good. We're impressed.
The rail projects have probably been on in the last 30-something years, trying to modernize, trying to revive it is something that has probably been on in more than 15 years. But this particular administration has prioritized infrastructure, and prioritizing that road, rail, it's part of it, which is under the transport sector. So the rail is something that they've been committed to, and Federal Ministry of Transportation has actually received budgetary release in 100% for every rail project.
Passengers' patronage continued to increase at the Itape to Warri rail line.
I feel so excited. What I see outside the country is now in my country.
It will turn the economy around for the better. Because before now, we used to see train services as rocket science. This is practical. We are seeing it live. It's no longer on paper. It is now real. It's working. It's functional. We pray that the functionality will be sustained.
Abandoned for about 33 years, the 326-kilometer rail line with 12 modern stations passes through the states of Kogi, Edo, and Delta, connecting the northern and southern regions of the country.
This is a very important landmark achievement of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration. While coming on board, he promised Nigerians that all important abandoned projects are going to be completed by his administration. This is a very important project that will impact positively on the lives of Nigerians. One, towards transportation and the movement of goods and services.
It's a lesson, and I believe even the state government should learn from this, that when a new administration you are coming in, it is unnecessary for you to start another project. Just pick the ones that are germane and complete it. The same credit will go to you. In fact, people will be happy.
Nigeria has not built a railway network for the last century. The best attempt was the Taipei-Buhari line. It was built, but never functioned. But today, you find it has been commissioned. It is working for the Nigerian community as a whole. And that rail line also is critical to making a Jakarta steel complex viable. Without the rail, it's just going to be an uphill struggle.
It has ever been part of the dreams of President Muhammadu Buhari to see that the railway system in Nigeria has been resuscitated and reactivated and been fully put to use. I could remember very well that when he was the chairman of the Petroleum Special Trust Fund, PTF, one of the recognized projects for intervention was the railway.
In 2016, Nigeria's first standard gauge rail line commenced operations. The 187-kilometer project is constantly being upgraded. More coaches were added and electronic ticketing introduced to make traveling easier for passengers.
In Abuja, Kaduna, we have a total of 17 coaches and they are split into two. One train is based at Rigasa. It originates from Rigasa every morning, and that one has 8 coaches. While the second one that is based in Idu, that originates from Idu every morning, is made up of 9 coaches. Now, these 17 coaches put together, their total carrying capacity, that is, the number of passengers multiplied by the 8 trips they all do in a day, will give you 5,344 passengers. That is the total carrying capacity. Assuming we are carrying full passengers for the 8 trips we do in a day. Seating capacity, I mean.
Can recall vividly the first day we rolled out this service on the city of Abuja. It was really a beauty to behold. Nigerians have come to embrace the rail transportation system. Right now, I can say from when we started in 2016 to now, we have carried nothing less than 2.5 million Nigerians on this corridor. And more are being promised for Nigerians on this corridor.
I've used the railway system for some time now, and I can boldly say that instead of using road transportation, I would prefer using the railway system.
Has really reduced a lot of stress for me. I now go to my home early, and it's so convenient. It's less expensive and so good. It has been so wonderful.
It's really reduced the cost for my transportation to office every day. It's really fantastic. I really enjoy it. Actually, it's only some few times that I will follow the road, maybe due to 1 or 2 reasons.
The development has been quite huge and thunderous. And I think by the time I hope this administration, finishes up well, we will now sit down and calculate in terms of mileage covered in the development of infrastructure. You will find that we can end up giving them some good mark. But even as of now, the opening up of the system, the ecosystem of trade and environment is a good thing.
However, in 2021 and 2022, 6 months apart, the Abuja to Kaduna train that was already witnessing massive patronage suffered a setback. October 2021, the train was bombed by bandits. Luckily, no life was lost, but the tracks and locomotives were damaged.
From the Regina, immediately when we just reached kilometer 137.5, we just had an explosion. The first explosion was from the left, the second one from the right. So and then from there, when we received the explosion, we're trying to make some things. How do we, as in dodge? Because since we did not know where they're coming from, after some couple of minutes, we are moving. The next thing we now started seeing a gunshot from the overhead bridge, which we could not be able to see those people that were there. The next thing, me and my colleague will lie down on the floor, continue. How do we manage to, as in we think very fast and talk with each other, how do we manage to clear ourselves there, and the passengers will be taken. So we decide from there, now we continue moving gradually. God help us with the God power, the nation. We'll be able to clear the spot up to 12.5 kilometers. That is when the local now shut down due to the damage to the tank, because the fuel got finished.
We keep on operating without allowing the train to stop, because we now think if the train will stop at that very moment, it will have been kind of horrible, because for the lives we are carrying and our own lives too. So, but God Almighty have saved us. We indeed grateful.
Six months later, in March 2022, there was another blast that claimed the lives of about 9 people on board, with several others kidnapped.
They started shooting sporadically from all angles, and they put the gun in rapid mode, so that really inculcated fear. And I could see when bullets was penetrating from the body of the train. I saw holes, and the whole train was so smooth, I could perceive the sounding of the bullet. And trying to move my leg, it was on the floor with shoe. So the bullet penetrated the door, the body, penetrated one of my distance, one of my fingers was completely off.
To prevent reoccurrence and secure the project, federal government is providing digital security network and 24-hour surveillance along the tracks and the trains in the Abuja to Kaduna rail and other rail projects across the country.
We've spoken with the Nigerian Air Force. The Nigerian Air Force used to escort the plane. The president has already approved that we should employ people who will be working on the track for the next 6-7 months, within which we should have been able to install the equipment. So we intend to employ villagers that will be working on the track. If they see if there's anything they suspect, they should let us know, so that we can let the security know and the security will move in. All these are measures we will take until we install the security equipment.
Immediately they happen, we deploy our men and succeeded in installing the track and also moving the 11 coaches that were affected by the attack and the other 3 coaches that delayed that was coming for relief. So we have moved them to workshop, we have examined them, we are now preparing on how to fix those coaches. And on the resumption of train service, we are trying to see how we can come back, give confidence to the people, and at the same time the security and the federal government are doing their ultimate best to see how those held in captivity can be released.
In spite of these distractions, federal government says it is determined to connect the entire country by rail.
The current government is committed to improving our infrastructure, and truly they've shown that they understand the connection between infrastructure, or availability of infrastructure, and economic development. Infrastructure itself is a catalyst for growth.
All over the world, countries that have a strong economic growth invest on railways. So it is only fair, so it is only right that Nigeria makes this choice, because this is the choice that will sustain Nigerian economic development.
I'm glad and the nation that the railway system is being revitalized.
That for me is very important. I grew up with railways. Railways have been part of my life everywhere I go. And so I'm very happy to see the project taking off. It's critical to development, to culture, to productivity.
Work is ongoing at the Kanu to Kaduna rail line project, a double-track standard gauge rail.
A lot of clearing has been done. The little challenges we had on a few kilometers of right-of-way acquisition has been reserved. You saw a number of bridges and culverts being done. We're working with a work plan for 18 months, and CCCC and also the supervising engineering company team knows that it's 18 months that segment of the project must be delivered. And hopefully, if we get more funding from the appropriation and also the loan kicking in, it's something that we know will be delivered.
The reconstruction and rehabilitation work for the narrow gauge Port Harcourt to Maiduguri is on and expected to reach Enugu State before the end of 2022.
Contracts are awarded at the beginning of the seaport. The Port Harcourt Maiduguri starts from Bonny with a new seaport in Bonny. It was connected to next seaport, connected to the Port Harcourt seaport. They're all connected. You can't say that's the directive of the president, because most Nigerians think that railway is for passenger transportation. No, it's movement of cargoes to create and grow the economy. It is basically to move goods and services, the ones you want to export as a result of production, or the ones you're bringing in as a result of importation. There's none. The Etabe Warri is connected to the seaport. We're trying to build a new seaport in Warri, which will link the central line. The central line starts from Abuja, Baro to Itabe, to Lokoja, and then to Alaja, where the current one ends, and then connection with the new seaport.
The project, estimated to cost about $3 billion, will connect states in the eastern and northern parts of the country.
This project is going to bring a lot of development to the agro-processing sector of the economy. It is going to further link Nigeria and the rest of West Africa in the future. The most important part of it is that it will inculcate the feeling of ownership by the local communities because of the agricultural developments that will be done along the corridor. There's going to be a lot of agro-processing which will lead to exports and also local consumption. What we hope this project will do is further open up Nigeria to importers, exporters, manufacturers and processors in the agro-allied industry and much more.
Not resting on its oars, more projects are still being carried out by the federal government. Work for the $11 billion Lagos to Calabar will soon commence, as contract for the construction has been awarded already.
Remember that is a huge project. It goes from Lagos to the whole of the coastal states. And it's a project that, because of the terrain, will be looking for 11.1 billion. If the funds kick in, then of course we'll begin to progress on that. We're working with the aim of delivery, and we're not going to shift our focus.
It is the stated goal of President Muhammadu Buhari to link all the state capitals with railway. By doing that, you establish an efficient means of exchanging goods and services across the country. Apart from that, it opens up the possibility of exporting a lot of our natural resources.
These projects have brought improvement in the socio-economic conditions of Nigerians.
We thank God because we are still moving small. We are moving forward. Because before we are entering sun here and there, but now we have seen a place to sit.
Besides making traveling easier, it has reduced the pressure on the roads with the commencement of freight services at the Itape, Warri and Lagos to Ibadan rail lines.
For years now, we have been passing through PEMS, more especially on the area of conveying our goods from the seaport, even in times of bringing our goods from northern states to the south. It has been an issue. It has been a very big challenge. The traders in Nigeria will no longer have challenge of issue of delayed in our goods in times of offloading our goods from the wharf, taking days or weeks. It has become a thing of past. We are believing that by the God's special grace, by the time our goods arrive to the seaport, in the next 1 or 2 days, at least the train should convey our goods to our various states. We have to float our goods and do our normal businesses, unlike before, where the container will leave Apapa seaport only to arrive to Lagos, Port Harcourt and other states in south or southeast. It will take days.
We are negotiating with Dangote to move cement from both of the Akbila factory and Obagina factory. It's at the peak now. We have over 150 wagons that we can deploy for the cement movement. We have warehouses they can also leave and use. So we are discussing that one seriously. Luckily enough, the Lagos Ibadan, the problem between Apapa and the port has been resolved. The salt formation has been fixed, and we can now get up to ANL. So and also luckily enough, the X-ray machine at APMT, the container has been shifted, and the contractor is now working within the APMT, which will sooner than later, or maybe in the next 2 months, they will complete the track entirely into the port, and we'll be able to move both container and other goods out of the port on the standard gauge.
Movement of goods and services have been guaranteed now by this particular infrastructure development, and this is what boosts the economy. If you have production, if you have the goods that are produced and you do not have means of moving them across, then that's a big problem.
The rail system is the only alternative to Nigerian economy. For example, moving the heavy equipment from south to north, east, and all of that. Even recently, they've engaged them in oil products. So that will give us a long way in easing and quenching the effects of the haphazard economy that we're running.
The rehabilitation of the rail line has created hundreds of jobs and local economy boosted along the corridors.
We have employed over 5,000 direct on NRC, but on the construction side, I think they have done over 15,000 of both professional, technical, and labor. So with this, the other side come take up, I think more people will be recruited, and we'll be emphasizing local content.
Conventional locomotives are being maintained 100% by Nigerians, and I keep saying it. From 26th July 2016, when we started these operations, Nigerians have been in charge. I have been in charge of this project. What Chinese did for 3 years was to provide technical support to us, and it has ended since 2019.
Training and maintenance are given considerations with ongoing construction of the wagon assembly plants at Kajola, Ogun State, and the University of Transportation in Daura, Katsina State.
They said remaining 7 buildings, and that those 7 buildings should be ready before September. I've asked the PAMSEC to invite them for a meeting so that this school can start functioning from September.
The coming of this administration in 2015 has seen 4 massive rail projects completed and many more projects ongoing. Feats already been described as unprecedented achievements that will revolutionize the transportation sector in Nigeria.
matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are, we're Nigerian first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one.
Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stover. Recently, 5 electricity distribution companies were restructured. Now, with the initiation of the National Mass Metering Program, these companies are to provide liquidity and prevent the insolvency and risk of collapse of the utility. The federal government retains 40% stake of equity in all electricity distribution companies, whilst the utilities will still be led by the private sector. The Bureau of Public Enterprises and the Central Bank of Nigeria say in exercising the rights of the lenders, timelines for the exit of the banks will be prescribed by the regulators. Tonight, NTA Tuesday Live will do justice to these issues. As the federal government says, there's no cause for alarm. In fact, the restructuring, it says, will not affect ongoing reforms and initiatives in the sector. But just before we go into tonight's discussion, let's get to see this report put together by Power correspondent Joshua Ojito.
2013 privatization exercise of the power sector opened a new vista for the electricity market in Nigeria. Hope rises among electricity customers of improved supply and quality service delivery as the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN, was unbundled and gave birth to 6 legacy generation companies, 11 distribution companies, as well as the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. With this development, generation and distribution arms of the value chain are privately owned, with federal government retaining 40% stake in the companies, while the transmission arm is under the monopoly of the federal government. 9 years after, the story of Nigeria's power sector leaves much to be desired, as power generation and distribution still hover around 5,000 megawatts for a country of more than 200 million people. From lack of gas to vandalism of power infrastructure, weak transmission networks, and lot rejection by the distribution companies, liquidity crisis among others, challenges of power sector in Nigeria seem unsurmountable, with customers bearing the brunt. More worrisome is the latest development in the sector, where financial institutions are taking over management of distribution companies for failure to meet up loan obligations acquired during the privatization exercise. So far, 5 distribution companies have been affected by what the banks refer to as contractual and commercial intervention, while the Port Harcourt Distribution Company had its board restructured also to prevent insolvency.
Again, the original problem which led to privatization has not been solved. And one of the original problems, or one of the original issues that led to privatization, is that equity will come in, the sector will be improved, and then efficiency will be improved. But that so-called equity has not come in as much as it ought to do, apart from the fact that the asset itself was not sold at what is generally regarded as the proper value for it. So all of those challenges will be there. But again, there is also another school of thought that thinks that by the time this phase goes away, whoever is going to be the new investor will also have become aware of the real state of the sector.
Although federal government assures that in exercising the rights of lenders to the co-investors, the financial institutions do not retain the ownership of shares and management of the distribution companies. The question is, how viable are the remaining 5 distribution companies? What is the exit time for the financial institutions to hand over the distribution companies? Are the distribution companies to be recapitalized and sold to new investors in order to manage the entities efficiently? Answers to these and many more will unfold as electricity consumers hope for improved supply under the new regime. Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
And that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guests. We'd like to welcome to this program Dr. Sam Amadi, is Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts. He is a former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Authority, NERC. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Let me also introduce Kunle Kola Ulubiyo. He is President, Nigerian Consumer Protection Network, and member, Presidential Ad Hoc Committee on Review of Electricity in Nigeria. That's at August 2020. Thanks for being with us tonight. And we're also joined by Donald Willie Etim. He is Chief Marketing Officer, Abuja Electricity Distribution PLC. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having us here, and good evening, viewers. Barakat Salah.
Right. Well, as is usual on this program, at some point in time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The lines will be on, so you can call in. But when it is that time, we'll refresh your memories. We'll again take you through the procedure. We do this every Tuesday. But back to the moment, it's time to take on the issues tonight. It's power sector reforms and restructuring issues. Of course, you know, any discussion about power in Nigeria is one that is bound to resonate with just about everybody else, especially given what's been going on in recent times. But let's start off and let's look at the reforms in the power sector and the current status in terms of delivery and all the other things attached to that. Currently, it's available. Dr. Sam.
I think first, just to rehash or quickly talk about the stage where we are right now. In 2001, the federal government issued a policy document called the National Electric Power Policy. That document was prepared by the then National Council on Privatization, issued by President Obasanjo's government. And that articulated the general policy framework for the reform. And so it identified some of the diagnosis, which is primarily that the sector was not commercially viable because of both funding, tariffs were not even, nobody was paying, and therefore there was no financing for the sector. The document also, identified lack of investment in expansion of network. So basically by 2000, so some people say there was a collapse of the sector, and that triggered the reform. Now that reform articulated 3 or 4 stages. The first stage was a stage of unbundling of the sector, and that's what we had from NEPA. In 2005, Electric Power Sector Reform Act now created the Power Holding Company as a transition to unbundling them into Abuja Disco and so on and so forth. So we had 18 companies 6 generation companies, 11 distribution, and 1 transmission company that federal government owns. So that document says after you have unbundled, the next thing is to corporatize it and commercialize, which is you now have different management board. It's still in government ownership, but they run it like different companies. Instead of having one NEPA, which is one company, you now have 18 different companies providing generation, distribution, and transmission. So that happened up until 2013. So the next stage after you have corporatized and commercialized will now be privatized, which we did in 2013 November, precisely I think November 30, when federal government handed over these assets to successful bidders. Again, the document says when you have done that, then you move into what we call the traditional electricity market, where they begin to learn how to trade independently and ultimately will get to where we call privatized electricity market, where it's just running like any other market. Now, where we are right now is in between privatization and getting to the fully privatized electricity market that is based on contract, where you have multiple suppliers, multiple buyers. So you don't have to have only probably Abuja Disco supply your power. Abuja Disco can provide a network. You have different companies supplying power. So we are still far from there. But the crisis right now is that it's like we didn't do well the corporatization, because when I became chairman of NEC, up until 2012, I think, build up to sale of the asset, there was no audited account of this so-called NEPA. As big as it was, since 1974, we merged the Naya Dam Commission with ECN to form what became NEPA in 1974. Till 2012, when I did the first auditing, NEC did it, there was no audited account. So you now have an entity that was not fully corporatized, didn't have commerciality. Up to now, they don't know credibly their customer numbers. You cannot call it disco. And then you go, Abuja is here tonight, so probably, and they tell you with proven data, this is a reliable number. In fact, until we left and up to now, the dispute was around the regulator has a different number, the disco has a different number. So we sold these assets without fully corporatizing and commercializing because we were also convinced, many Nigerians believe that government has no business in business, which is an ideology. Because we are seeing, for example, countries like Egypt, where government still owns the sector, or South Africa, by the way, and they are far more efficient than us. So we saw them in that state that the owners even said they didn't have knowledge about this, what they met. So today, we were where we are, where the sector is basically bankrupt and federal government is shoring it up both financially and the service quality is very poor. And the fear now for the federal government and policymakers is if we need to do something drastic to rescue the sector.
All right, thank you so much for giving us this background. And as you know, many Nigerians will just look at the whole scenario and say this is confusing, to say the least. But then let's go over to Kunle Kola Ulubiyo, who is the president of the Nigerian Consumer Protection Network and member of the Presidential Ad hoc Committee on Review of Electricity in Nigeria. So, what is your take on the state of affairs?
And thank you for having me tonight. Dr. Sam Amadi was chairman of NEC and was part of the reform, particularly the privatization of the power sector. To us as end user, like the president, I want to borrow the language of the president, where is the power? Corporatization, corporate governance, and what have you. The recent review of electricity tariff said it's going to be service-based tariff or service-reflective tariff. And like you have said, what we seem to be getting is that the more we increase the tariff, the lesser the service we get. And so the power sector trajectory is in a bad shape. The process of privatization was flawed, and it was enmeshed with the Nigerian factor, and we have a window. At the session of privatization, it was 30% equity and 70% credit financing debt from the banking sector. most of the firms that were pre-qualified technically and financially, because in every process like this, you have the technical due diligence, you have the financial due diligence. Most of them were registered the very week of privatization. And what we are saying is that they never had any pedigree anywhere in the world of being in power business. And one had expected that a process that had international expression of interest, that have global best practices, will have maintained this threshold. So you cannot build something on nothing. And as we speak today now, most of the generation plants that we have, they are obsolete, they are in decadence, they are only quoting for capacity that if you decide to keep generation for 1 week at 4,000 megawatts, it cannot even be sustained. So, and the license we gave to the distribution licensee entails that we don't expect that it's going to be a perfect situation. 10 years license tenure. In 2015 or 2018, we had expected a regulator in NEC and BPE to do what they call mid-term review of the privatization exercise, to look at the actionable and deliverables and see the level of achievement that have been recorded. But as you know, in the Nigerian factor, a lot of things below the table, a lot of things have gone wrong, and we believe that the so-called investors have focused more of their time in enhancing regulatory capture, lobbying the regulators, whether BP or NEC, because BPE in 2018 or 2019 mid-term review, the essence of it is that we adopted the India model. We were not expecting that we were going to have a perfect situation, but mid-term review was supposed to let us appraise the mileage or project milestone and do a project analysis of the KPIs. That was not done. If we, no matter what we have on ground, the regulator has failed us from the consumer point of view, and that is why we are all where we are now. By next year, the license will expire, and we just believe that this lot that we have, somebody involved in business of importation of corporate gift, banana sellers, Medoya, Mama Onik Momo, or what have you, you now give them serious business of managing power without technical or financial pedigree. In fact, sadly, the technical partners that they brought, they misrepresented they are having those technical partners from overseas, which they use like what they call over some people who travel abroad would say marriage of convenience. You do arranging marriage just for you to get paper to travel abroad. That was exactly what happened. So it was a fraudulent contract, and in public interest, it is in our interest for federal government to review this process. Those we have now may not take us to the promised land. There are serious serious-minded business entity in Nigeria that of global brand, the Buhari, the Dangote, and so many of them that can inject their funds. Even the UBA can register, and some of the banks and go to NEC and obtain license for. They have an energy department obtain license for this because they have the funds. So that when they bring in the funds and the mix of this technical expertise, the power sector is really viable. Abuja electricity, for example, make an average of 10 to 15 billion naira a month, and if a sector is making that much, and the issue of fiscal discipline, recklessness, a lot of leakages because of regulatory jump polo, regulatory absenteeism. The regulator was not just there. So, and if you have like what we have in the telecom sector, what we have in the health sector, you have NAFDAC, you have the CBN, you have NCC, that we can beat our chest at Nigerians and be proud that they are doing well. In the power sector, we've not gotten this right. We are proud of Amadi, we are proud of Tony Aka, we are proud of Rasom Owa, but what we have now of late is not really giving us results. So we need to do a retool of the whole process if we must get there. You cannot do something on nothing, and that is why we are getting the result that we are getting now, and it's quite sad.
Not a very fine picture you've painted, but then there is Donald Willie Etim, who's with us, and is the Chief Marketing Officer of the Abuja Electricity Distribution PLC. So let's hear you.
Okay, so good evening once again, and thank you for having us here. The truth really is this: when you look at the situation, and I speak from the prism of Abuja Electricity, 6 months down the line from the takeover from the previous management, to a lot of people, it would look like not much has happened. But if you give me a bit of time, I'll speak to a few value additions we've brought into the system. Initially, when we arrived, we met a company that was comatose, almost. 2 days or 3 days beyond that, if the action that was taken in terms of the takeover had not happened, that company would have gone flat on its face. Okay, so we met a lot of problems and issues, and we decided it is what it is, and we'll move on from there. The first thing that was necessary and critical to be put in place was a fiscal discipline framework. So working between BPE and NEC and the central bank, a clear fiscal discipline framework was put in place, and all the amounts or accounts and monies coming in revenue trickling in, because they were really trickling in at that time, were escrowed. That was critical. So that was first. Now, in the kind of business we do, you have the human factors and you have the technical factors. And most of what we deal with as challenges have to be driven by the human factors. We looked into the system and found that from an employee point of view, a lot of rot had happened. Emoluments had not been paid as it went due. Salaries were paid. Just net salaries. However, pensions were outstanding. Union check dues were outstanding. Contributions for, what do they call it? Accommodations were outstanding. Then you go as far back as HMO. The HMO policy was practically dead. Staff could no longer access health facilities or health services because so much was being owed in debt. And then 13th month pay was outstanding, long service award was outstanding. But due to the gracefulness and gratuitousness of UBA, we were able to take on that challenge and immediately clear everything in under 2 weeks. And we met the deadline that had been set from the negotiations arising out of BPE, NEC, and the union discussions. Beyond the settlements of debts and outstanding dues, the next thing was the company was top-heavy. The company was so top-heavy that even the guys involved admitted there had to be some form of rationalization, otherwise we would not make any progress. So we sat down with the union, negotiated, and at some point reached agreements on how these access to requirements, top talents were going to be let off. And we realized as well that in letting off so many people, or that many people, we were going to let off some good ones. And we committed to the union that where we find that we have let off someone that is really critical to service delivery, we will hire them back on a consultancy basis. That we are currently doing. The third thing we did was to do a diagnostic analysis of the network. That is to take end to end the entire network and study it and critique and find what the problems were. We found loads of overloaded feeders. We found that transformers were broken down and could not be replaced. We found several things, a plethora of issues. And we decided, what are we going to do about this? Today, as a result of that diagnostic analysis we did, we have what we call the Quick Win project. As I speak, there are 40 technical and semi-technical projects going on in Abuja electricity franchise area as we speak, with a lifespan of between 1 month to 3 months for completion. We are addressing those ones now because those will allow us to, in future, deliver stable power and enjoy a fairly more reliable network. So, stepping away from that, we've also said How do we get additional power input into the system? After 3-4 appearances at TV and radio stations, I got tired of talking about low generation or low water or low everything. It's not the rainy season, because it just wasn't that alone. We needed more energy on the system. Abuja franchise area, for instance, is expanding. Nigerian cities are expanding. So we are currently in discussion with developers that can deliver to us embedded power and mini grid solutions, just to be sure that we have enough, or at least more than what was available, to be able to make life easy or easier for the customer. In summary, really, we are committed to delivering power to our offices and our homes in a stable, reliable, and safe manner. What we have done in the last few months, to a lot of people, may not be very visible, but I want to draw an analogy from the construction business. Before you put up a 21-story building, you probably have to put in underground a foundation that will take as much money and is yet not seen, not visible to the human eye. That's where we are. We are setting up the foundations. We are rounding up with the foundations. As at 1st of July this year, which was like 2 weeks ago, I can guarantee customers that incremental changes are going to be noticed on the network.
All right. Thank you so much. You talk about quick wins, and perhaps in the course of this program, we'll examine what those quick wins are. But let's come back to Dr. Sam Amadi. And the issue here, I did say to you after your opening comments, that many Nigerians will find this all so confusing. And it's simply because people just want power. They want the system reviewed, they want it functioning, and they want it now. And so when you begin to talk of generating companies, GENCOs, distribution companies, DISCOs, electricity regulation company, NERC, bulk purchasing company, and all that, becomes also confusing. And these are terms that have been going on and on. People just want to see power and let it be there.
Absolutely.
So is this maze that people are going through and don't understand? Is it responsible for what?
I think, look, it's unfortunate that in Nigeria we burden the citizen with technical discussions around power. Like you already observed, citizens all over the world don't even bother to know the process in which power is generated. That's not their business. They just want power. And when they're going to have occasional blackout, very occasional, they want to hear government announce, well, there will be some load shedding between X, Y, Z hours. So they know, maybe because of calamity, hurricane, all kinds of things. Okay, so you're right. In proper setting, citizens don't even need to know what is called DISCO or GENCO. They just want to know that they have a supply of power, they pay their bills. If there's a problem, they get a letter that says, we apologize for X, Y, Z. But where we are right now, in our development, where the failures of the past has caught up with us. So, this power sector didn't start in 2000, basically. Nigeria had its first grid power in 1896 at Daura, okay? About 25 megawatts. And down the line, the history, they keep, first, we're not building capacity as we ought to. So there are many things in the past we should recognize but not dwell on. Many countries in the world, Egypt, I give example, added about 20,000 megawatts in about 3 years, additional, not just the additional. So the issue is about 3 to 4, 5 years. So the issue is we're not building capacity. So it came to a point where this sector collapsed. That's the first point. The last major power plant built in this country before this and the previous administration was Ibn in Lagos by Shehu Shagari, and I think probably commissioned in 1980, thereabout, okay? Before 84, before there were certain parking. Since then, up until NIPP started with President Obasanjo, and we started commissioning these power plants. Now, we commissioned 10 power plants, supposed to take 10 years, 5 years, okay, to give us approximately 10,000 megawatts. Today, government is trying to privatize those plants. Some of them have not even been commissioned. So you can see project failure along the line before even this government came to power. So the reason why we are discussing these issues and wasting people's brain power to remember all the terms is because we didn't build capacity when we ought to do that. So what this reform tried to do, and which is the problem now, many countries in the world that privatize, whether it's Chile, India, whether it's the UK, where we borrowed the main model, privatize when they've attained a certain level of capacity. So they are privatizing to get government out of the business. So the government can save its money and invest in other things. And the private sector will now take over and probably run it more efficiently. In the UK, that happened. They had capacity, but they were not efficient. So people were not paying, public sector were not managing it well. The argument was, okay, give to the private sector, regulate them, and then they get investment. But here in Nigeria, by the time we started to privatize, we don't even have regular 3,000 megawatts in the grid, regular. The whole of our capacity is less than available or possible to be available, not even ready to be dispatched, maybe 7 to 9. Now we are claiming about 16,000 megawatts, okay? So what that means, first thing, is that we didn't build capacity and the private sector struggling to build capacity. And there is something that Kule said about these guys not being, have the competence. I wasn't a regulator then. By the way, I wasn't the privatizer, it was BPE, but we worked together. The first thing was this. Initially, the idea is to get people who have up to $100 million US assets, their own money, to buy the asset. Because if you buy the asset, then you can now borrow money to recover, change the lines so that the power will work. Later, BP has to change it. Why? Because when they went on roadshow, the big guys who are supposed to come, they want to come. And the small people say, how will we get 100 billion? So what they did was...
Why didn't the big guys want to come?
Because, good question. I told you before that this sector had no audited account. I did the first one. I did the first metering survey by Bamidele Turu, the lawyer who died, comrade. We went all over the country. Kukule was part of it, I think, all over the country to say how much is our metering gap. So you don't have data. How can anybody come to a market where you don't even know your customer number, how many customers you have, you don't even know your financial status? We have to do that to privatize. So they say, look, this is risky. So the provision was done hurriedly, and because we have to do it, we got the small guys. And what did they do? Now the rule says you have to have at least 100 million, which means if your asset base is about 100 million US dollars, if you buy this asset, let's say you pay 150 or 60, depending on what it is. And by the way, they were assessed at the basis of what investment they will make. We now say then you can now go to the bank, capital market, money market, anywhere, and borrow money to change meters, provide meters. But see what these guys did. Because they don't have the money, they borrowed this money to buy the assets. That's the problem we're having today. So the share purchase agreements they had was backstopped with money they borrowed, hot money, short term. So you borrow, instead of borrowing 5 years moratorium and so on and so forth, you borrow money that you have to start paying maybe 6 months after. Number two, he said they got partners who signed MOU, not a bankable legal document that commits them to financing. So Sam Amade company in Nigeria, I have only 30 million US dollars, okay? I don't have 100 million. So I go to Korean Power Authority in South Korea. They have 20 billion, and this is real. They have $20 billion assets. So I take their asset statement out to mine. They have 5% equity, supposedly, under MOU. So what that means, therefore, is a mismatch. You have a company that has, on paper, 25 to 20 billion, 30 billion. But the real company that's going to run that place has only $30 million. So when they purchase it, there's no call for money. He can't ask them to bring money. So when we saw this, we did a fit and proper regulation, and we did this, and we wrote to the vice president then, November, December, said, none of these companies have the financial capacity to run these assets. One or two, maybe. Eco and the KJ were slightly better, and that's what they're doing well. So the VP was alarmed and called a meeting, and we discovered that in a bid to sell, BPE has to reduce and remove those requirements. So they passed the test, but the test was set so low. So bottom line, Silva, is, look, we got a sector that collapsed. We needed to privatize and put band aid quickly. We couldn't corporatize, as NEP said, the National Electric Power Policy says, first corporatize it, commercialize it. Let this company begin to become a profitable going company in government hand. Then schedule privatization. Now, interestingly, Egypt is planning to privatize. They're going to privatize with capacity. They have the power. They're going to privatize with companies that are already, capable of being entities. They're going to privatize with a regulator that has, over the years, learned the curve. So the problem we have now is we sold too quickly, we sold in bad shape, and the guys we sold to are not magicians. They are weak. Many of them have no access to funding, and many of them have no capacity. So they're going to be struggling. But then government is now trying to find a way to help them or ease them out and bring institutional investors who can probably reinforce their capacity to finance and change management. So state management is difficult. For example, you talked about audit. When we were there 6 months after the sale, we did a snap audit, and that snap audit showed that some of these discos were spending more for their directors, hiring houses in Asokoro. I remember very well, we find Abuja disco, Ebaro disco, in that 6 months, about 75 million each, as we penalized them. But we left 2 years after the privatization. I'm not sure whether they are being penalized. So we knew that the tendency for a private sector market that's not properly regulated is that the owners would be maximizing their own benefit. It's global. We talk about stock options for companies in America. We talk about management payouts. So they will maximize their own value. They will prioritize paying their loan to retain control of their share company, of their companies that they used to pledge, since they didn't pledge the assets of the disco, but they pledged their company. So in order to save their skin, they're more concerned to be paying off this hot money and not reinvesting in the network. And that's why regulation is very critical.
Okay, we have a report which we'll take now. This one is coming from Lagos by Adeni Taiwo.
Despite being a major enabler of socioeconomic activities, regular power supply has remained elusive in most parts of the country.
If they bring it, they will take it back within a second safe.
When you hear crazy bill, that's what they bring for us. And when you don't pay, you see them coming to cut your lights. I will rate it. It's like 2/10, and it's very poor.
According to stakeholders in the sector, a set of reforms embarked upon by the federal government to restructure the sector and make it mostly private sector led has not done enough to change the energy narrative across the 3 legs of the value chain. For instance, the 13,400 megawatts of installed power generation capacity has only been able to yield an average of 4,000 megawatts to service an estimated 200 million population, while inadequate and obsolete infrastructure at the distribution end sometimes affect energy supply uptake. At the center of this challenge is what they called adoption of wrong pricing model in a deregulated environment.
First of all, electricity is a product. A product comes at a cost. You have to know the landing cost of a product before you determine the price. So at the end of the day, if it is 12,000 megawatts from generation, then the transmission grid must be able to wheel the power from the point of generation to the point of distribution. And the distributor too must be able to distribute that electricity.
In a sector where confidence in the system is in deficit, energy theft is another major challenge.
That is why you have the illiquidity in the electricity industry presently, because the discos are not collecting enough money to pay the other people in the value chain, the transmission company, the generation companies, and even the gas companies. New investors are not coming in because we ordinarily want to invest where you know that there will be return on investment.
We are not engaged of having regional grids such that electricity does not have to travel for thousands of miles before you get to the end user.
The right mix, respondents say, is to have proper deregulation of the sector under the watchful eyes of National Electricity Regulatory Commission and allow the right pricing to drive needed investment in infrastructure across the value chain. In Lagos, Adeni Taiwo.
All right, our next report is coming in from Uyo.
Research has proven that electricity is a major driver in any robust economy, accounting for the optimal performance of every sector. Analysts therefore attach importance to the power sector while calling on any government that desires economic turnaround of its people to fix the power sector, literally putting her mouth where her money is. According to the managing director of Ibom Power, Mayene Tukudo, the recent reform in the power sector by the federal government has helped proper management of power for improved supply, but noted that there is need for more to be done in the area of metering.
GCN maintain the transmission line, build transmission line, commission transmission line, while distribution company build injection substations all over. So this has really helped to put power in various hands and in various administrative convenience.
The journey of the state government's Power for All initiative began with the overhaul and system upgrade of Ibom Power and other facilities required to ensure adequate power supply in the state. What seemed to be worrisome is that despite government's huge investment in the sector, the people, especially those residing in the areas that are not metered, are lamenting.
I cannot stay in two-bedroom flat and I will be paying a sum of 10,000 naira at the end of the month. It's uncalled for. Paid 7,000 out of 8,000. They said I have to still balance.
Investigation reveals that Akwa Ibom State has no problem in the area of power generation, but distribution as evident in the metered areas that now enjoy 20 hours daily supply of power and more. In Uyo, Kevin Samuel.
All right, those reports from Lagos and Uyo, and it's back to the studio here. And we heard the respondents in those two reports, and we saw the extent to which the reforms have impacted. But again, if we ask Kunle Kola Olubiyo, the president of the Nigerian Consumer Protection Network, would you say those reforms have impacted on the general public, who in this case are the ones who are the customers, to that extent that people would look back and say, yes, this privatization, that stage of it is justifiable?
From the consumer point of view, to us, we are yet to get the benefit of the privatization, particularly for the fact that, talk about metering, there have always been, as we speak to you now, there have always been end users or consumers' willingness to pay. The meters are not there. So many consumers that want to have meters, because, for example, now, in 2020 June, the regulator came up with the idea of capping of pricing, that is tariff. I was a member of the Presidential Ad Hoc Committee on Review of Electricity Tariff in Nigeria, and as at that time, the tariff benchmark was about 24 naira per kilowatt hour, and the cost of the OPEC obligation entails that for every production of crude oil and gas that is going out of Nigeria, 50% must be for export and 50% for domestic. The domestic that's supposed to go in firing up the gas to power generation, domestic gas, and to the end users is being exported wholly. And now we are being asked to pay arbitrary rate for gas. And we argue that there are the cost of gas, which is a major feedstock of the cost of production, the input of production, is padded. There are a lot of bureaucracy and inefficiencies that have been built into the cost of gas. And we want federal government to review that, because gas is supposed to be priced in naira. It is either we review our JVA or JVC with the international oil companies, so that if gas is priced in naira, we can get value. And even at 24 naira, it was not a bad market. Now we have segmentation of by NEC, band A, band B to E. For band A, which is the cosmopolitan areas, it was contractual through the service-based, service reflective tariff, that they will give us a minimum of 20 hours with XY amount of tariff. But as we speak to you, since the month of January this year, the power generation in the country have been abysmally low, and there have not been compensation to consumers in spite of high tariff from 24 naira to 68 naira per kilowatt hour for band A. And if you look at the network configuration, the feeders, in those days where the rural electrification invested so much money, they just keep expanding the network. So there are some rural areas that you could declare them annuity, where the energy that could be utilized or dispatched to that area, the cost of return on investment may be 40%, which is places that are not viable. Even when you give the band A 20 hours, you cannot take off supply from that area. So it's a disservice to us. But if we are metered, if NEC is not having what we call the regulatory somersault, they said there is capping in the UK. Osgem has put in place price capping, and it's working. Even to the end users in UK, the British government is giving them some incentive as, energy voucher. Now we don't get that even during the COVID. In 2020, like I said, places outside Abuja, they were supposed to be like 3,000 to 5,000 naira a month as per capping, because that was to incentivize the idea of closing the metering gap. But all of a sudden, NEC has somersaulted and the customers are not being capped. There are so many places between January to date that have not been getting steady power supply. The generation has dropped to an average of 2,000 to 3,600 megawatts of late. And we thought that with this low generation, customers will be compensated. We have not been compensated.
It's interesting. You talked about the number of supply to this classification, like band A, for instance, which you just talked about, which is from the classification should be receiving 20 hours of electricity supply. I can tell you for free that, using Abuja as an example, there's hardly any place, at least I know areas in Abuja, that do not receive anything close to 20 hours of electricity, and they are classified under band A, and they continue to pay at that amount. But again, there's this other question which we would like you to take on just before we go over to Donald Etim, and that has to do with the amount of investment, the amount that the federal government, for instance, has invested in the distribution companies. You have any idea to quantify how much the federal government has invested in the distribution companies?
To create a paradigm shift and de-escalate or reduce the burden of public sector funding. But post-privatization, the discourse have been technically insolvent and financially insolvent. So it's the federal government that has brought in over 700 and something billion naira for gas guarantee assurance fund to pay for the gas value of to generation company. The federal government have invested over 250 billion naira in national mass metering, which is ongoing. So many investments, and one begin to ask, what is the essence of privatization? That as little as change of transformer or cables. It is the end users, it is the non-state actors that have been investing in the sector. The only area that the investors are good at doing is with NEC, increase in electricity tariff, and how to recover their funds, but they've not really added value as expected of a private sector driven entity. So we believe that maybe because we didn't get it right, maybe because we didn't get the right kind of people, and so if by 2020 we could look for different windows that is open to us to explore, maybe we may get the right kind of team to come on board and do better. The power sector is not as bad as we have been made to believe. It's just lack of fiscal discipline and lack of corporate governance. And if the human element is addressed, we believe that the sector will be whole. A whole lot of investment. Federal government have assessed foreign loans running to several billions, not less than 7 billion naira in the last 7 years, and we are not really getting value for all the money.
Yeah, Dr. Amadi, you were going to come in here when we were talking about the huge, investments in
I think you talked first. After privatization in 2013, part of the crisis complaint of the discourse was that, of course, there were legacy debts. See, that's why I talk about the history of this crisis. The history is they were not paying for gas to gas suppliers before privatization. MDAs, government departments, ministries, and agencies were not paying for their consumption. In fact, just part of what NEC did last 2 months in July with the new 1st July, the new tariff also that triggered, was to put in back some kind of support for those debts. So those debts are being paid now under this government. But the point is that these legacy debts were a burden on the private sector, and so government rightly, the CBN, NEC under us, BPE and the Central Bank and Ministry of Justice met, and the governor of Central Bank agreed to provide a 213 or 17 billion, which was a loan to the discos, and which the governor, since CBN had first line charge. So when resources come, they first pay themselves. Maybe they have recovered it. Then there was a 700 and something billion. In 2015 we left, 2016-17 I guess, they had another 700 something billion. Then there's this recent billion also coming in at about 200 something billion. So you can see that the argument has been that maybe the federal government, part of the reason for privatizing and reforming was what we call in economics public sector borrowing requirement, that the government is exposing its balance sheet a lot, borrowing to finance. So by moving away, government saves that borrowing and maybe utilize resources to do other things that state private sector cannot do. But the counterfactor is that the government probably, arguably, is spending more than or close to what it would have spent if it was the one driving it. And so the question is this: should we continue to, provide public finance at a level in which it's being provided as a sort? But again, it asks, look, the banks are leveraged. The banks are the ones who supported this with the borrowing. Okay. So if the central bank does not come in at the government, maybe the contagion in the financial sector will be much more grievous, and so that probably explains why these CBN interventions are necessary.
Right. So let's take it to the table of Donald Willie Etim, Chief Marketing Officer of Abuja Electricity Distribution PLC. So,
I think I want to address this issue from the customer's view, and taking into account what Dr. Sam has said and what Kunle has said, and Kunle pointed directly to the issue of, if we were to paraphrase, paying for darkness. And he and I belong to a forum among several other where all of this come through for discussion. From a discourse business perspective, we do realize, and I speak for Abuja the distribution largely, we do realize that there have been a few incidents where communities, not just individual customers, communities come across to us, write a letter and sometimes complain, and they say, you know what, you're paying, you're billing me 13, 14 or 15,000 naira. And I have not seen so much power in the past day or days or weeks. And in this sector, you hardly would talk about billing without talking about metering. So these are symbiotic problems within the industry. What we have done as a matter of a policy is that when communities or even single customers come to us and say, I have not had any supply for so many months or so many weeks or so many days, whatever the time, why am I having to pay so much? And 3 days ago, or 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago, I had so much or so little power and I'm paying about the same amount. We sit with those communities, we have meetings with them, we go to them, we get customers involved, we get the traditional rulers involved, we get stakeholders in the communities involved. We sit with them and try to explain to them why the billing may have been so. And it goes back to the issue of capping. And capping essentially devolves from one of the NEC rules that says if you take into consideration factors A, B, C, or D, for this particular location, no customer should be charged above a certain limit. So here is the thing. Generally, we don't go above those caps. But where we have even gone above, there's a redress mechanism that allows either the customer or the communities to apply and get a revalidation. And it is on record that we make adjustments and give credit to the customers involved to say, please, oh, this was an error, or these were the issues around it, but we sit and we negotiate and we discuss that. That is one side.
Just before you go on, Mr. Donald Letton, just before you go on, you've just explained something here, and I just thought I might just quickly put this on. You talked about communities or even individual consumers, all right? What about where you have classified as Band A, and they're not getting they're not getting half of 20 hours electricity, and they still keep paying on Band A, and you can actually prove this for a considerable period of time? What's the relief for those people?
We normally have what we call reconciliations. So sometimes you find a customer comes through to say, this is what I am getting. I'm not getting much. I'm not getting Band A, for instance, and I'm being charged for Band A. And we look at that entire area and we find whether it was a general problem or if it was an individual local problem. And whatever we discover advises what we take as a corrective action. 2 days ago, if this happens in the course of a very short timeline or frame or window, we tend to understand that it's happenstance. So for a longer time, we dig in and find out how we can make amends to that customer or group of customers. I was going to say 2 days ago, I had someone write me an email, a lady from, I can't disclose her identity, write me an email, actually wrote the email to my CEO and complained that not only is she not having supply, she is also not getting the right responses from the customer service unit, which is under my exact purview. And I took that very personal. And I called her and I said, you know what, I'm going to come back to you. Let me find out what the issues are. And we then found out that we had a fault on that line. It was an underground fault. And our men, AEDC men, were not allowed access to the underground channel carrying the trunk for security reasons by policemen. It took us 2-3 days to resolve that AEDC police interface. Yesterday, the same lady wrote back to me. That was the first SMS I saw when I woke up. She said, "Sir, thank you very much for intervening in this. We've had 20 hours minimum for the past 2 days. That alone brought gratitude and, or would I say, joy to my heart. That's the case of just one person. There's several other stories like that. But this is a mass problem. We cannot address all the problems at one time. We take one at a time and we resolve them."
All right. Well, I'm not a prophet or a seance, but I can predict that having explained this bit, you'll be getting very many emails from the public, those who are watching this program, particularly in terms of what band they're placed on and them not getting, in fact, sometimes half of that number of hours. I'm certain in the next couple of days, in the next few days and weeks, you'll be getting so many more. Now that people know that they can actually find a way out of this and ask for a review. But at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, there'll be more discussions on the power sector reforms and restructuring. Stay with us at NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, cupping into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
All right, thanks for staying with us. This is still NTA Tuesday Live. It's power sector reforms and restructuring. That's what we're looking at tonight. This is a segment where you can now get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The numbers to call will be on your screen. We advise you take advantage. Call in and air your views on how you think the reforms and the restructuring are impacting on the power sector, and especially for all the consumers like you and me, and how we're getting value for what the government has done in terms of privatization and investment. We say this every Tuesday during the segment, that if you're calling in and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also encourage you to go straight to the point and to not waste time on greetings. Just a simple hello would do. Others would want to get on the platform too and air their views. So the lines are open and the numbers are on your screen. So let's... hello? Yeah, okay, so... the calls will keep coming in, but let's stay with Donald Williatin a moment longer and put this question to say, what is it? Because we keep hearing the blame has been apportioned here and there, buck passing, and some people have said, look, this is more like the chicken and the egg story. From one point of view, people would say, look, the discos are not giving us this far. The discos said, no, the gencos are not bringing enough for us to distribute. And then there's the question of the regulator. There's also the question of the transmission company, and also the question of bulk purchasing, all this maze. What is the reason? Now, you have a caller on the line. Delight from Port Harcourt is calling in. Delight from Port Harcourt. Go ahead.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm Delight calling from Port Harcourt. Yeah, I'm just going. I'm watching the program. Though honestly, I like it for a couple of days. They've been trying, giving us consistent light but the estimated bill is the problem. Yeah, my mom is a trader. She sells in the market, and we have estimated bill of over 120,000.
All right. Okay, so
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
So yes, for now we've been having consistent light, but I really want them to talk about the estimated bill and how to reduce it, especially for the poor masses.
Oh, yeah, delight. Okay, but anyway, the question of estimated bills will definitely fall under the metering initiative, and once there are meters, there shouldn't be estimated bills. Matter of fact, we recall that there was once a directive that this question of estimated bills should stop.
I think a very important point. And by the way, all over the world, you don't have all the customers metered. In fact, at a point, some poor people, the government policy says don't meter them. Because if you meter them, they can't consume. Because if they can't buy, okay? So what happens is that when we are there, we had what we call methodology for estimation, which tries to provide some accurate process for estimation. This new NEC has also put out a regulation that benchmarks. Say if somebody is not metered, because the disco has the obligation to provide meter. So if you don't meter them, then you can't charge them beyond certain level. Basically, you have to give them minimum cost. And I think the NEC needs to probably enforce it, because what that does is to drive up incentive for metering.
Okay.
So what is open like that sometimes they overestimate, because if you lose money, if you don't make money from metered customer, you have little room for maneuvering. The rest of that, the deficit is offshore to.
Okay, so yes, so back to Donald Willie Etim. This is an additional one for you to take on with the question I was asking earlier on before Delight came on the line with her question, and so.
Let me tie in quickly with the issue around billing. And recall I had mentioned that when you speak about billing in this sector, you naturally are going to end with metering. It's the proverbial case of the spoon and the plates getting involved with each other. And I thank Dr. Ahmadi for the insight and clarification is given. The bottom line is, Delight, please, to avoid estimated billing or crazy bills. You are just being polite. It's addressed as crazy bills. Try and get metered. You live in Port Harcourt, so I know PHC distribution must have some metering project. In the Abuja electricity distribution franchise area, we are running with a metering program now under the MAP, Meter Asset Provider Scheme. It used to be like you get metered in 10 days, you go onto the website, fill a form and wait 10 days to get metered. But we've gone mobile with metering. Today, we take the bus, load the meters, engineers, everyone. We go to the various offices. So we have at Karu, Apo, Warimpa, Mpape, everywhere around Abuja, Mina, Lafia, Lokoja. You get in there, if you are an existing subscriber or existing customer, go with their last month's bill. You're going to get to fill a couple of forms, minimum detail, you'll be metered within 24 hours. If you are not an existing customer, you get to fill a different kind of form. We call it traditionally Form 74. It says the NEC requirement. I wonder why it's called Form 74 since before I was born. But anyway, that's the name. You get to complete the form in 24 hours. You get metered as well. So you get away completely from the issue of estimated metering and start paying for what you consume. Then quickly, let me get back to the issue of bulk passing. And Cyril, this question is instructive. Observation is instructive. 6 months ago or 7 months ago, when I arrived at this industry, the first thing I noticed was A was blaming B was blaming C and all of that. And I quickly asked myself and my new colleagues, when will this stop? But I think at that time, that was when the industry, as it were, was also asking itself the same set of questions. From round about February or early March, I have found within this sector the level of collaboration and cooperation that I think had not existed before this time. We have had several engagements with either the GenCo side of the business or the transmission side of the business. And today, I know that the Transmission Company of Nigeria has embarked on a network expansion program that's going to affect all discos, wherever they may be. But before they started this, they went on a road show, and the first stop was Abuja Disco. They wrote to us, we set up a meeting room, they spent 2 days with us, telling us what they want to do, and then going to the field with our teams to see or identify which points of the network those points are going to be fixed, and telling us how long it will take, right down to the lines they will be working on, the days and weeks they will be working on those lines, just in case we also have maintenance work to do across that. That is collaboration I think never existed, or may have existed on paper but has not been played out that way. So when 2 or 3 weeks ago I was on a similar program on NTA talking about power sector issues, the first thing I said was, I am not here to talk about who is to blame or who was to blame for something that happened in 1762 on the road to Umonede. No, we are stuck. We have problems. We must fix them. So jointly, as of today, block passing is a thing of the past. You may find occasional references being made, but we work in collaboration with the GenCo components of the ecosystem and the TCN components of the ecosystem. As a matter of fact, every day our engineers speak to the TCN dispatchers, and they get into a discussion. They agree, they disagree, because of load shedding. But this is because we want ultimately for the average customer to get a fair level of supply within the course of the day.
Okay, thank you. We have James calling in from Warri. James, if you're there, thank you so much for staying on this while. Okay, James, are you still there?
Yeah.
Thank you for staying on. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you have tried so much. We appreciate Nigeria, appreciate you. Furthermore, Mr. Silva, that man in my area for more than 7 months, we have no light. We bought transformer by ourselves, and the transformer just built it 3 days ago. They now give us light for 2 hours. Today, NEPA came to my compound. I collect this. For more than 7 months, no light. Today now, NEPA come and collect light. That even the previous months that there have not been light, that we could come and pay the bill. So the thing is very, very, that man that is carrying us through. So people see the truth and they just feel like just lying. There's no Nigerians. That's why Nigerians cannot go for that. You see the truth and you differ from the truth. Just apologize. I'm not expecting to just apologize to Nigerians and be saying, but I'm watching. Sometimes we should be. There is nothing you have to preach here. There's no light. And we are bringing estimated billion naira, thousands. I shall be telling Nigeria and telling now that you are trying. So please, we should, Nigerians should be very, at least we should fear God.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, James. But just to mention that the gentleman we have in the studio, Donald Willietim, is of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. Well, in Warri, certainly it would be another distribution company that would be in charge of Warri, and so he may not be able to speak for that company. His contribution will, to a large extent, be limited to Abuja Disco. So that's it. But others who are in the industry may be able to comment on these practices, because we have heard reports from different parts of the country that sometimes consumers have to contribute to buy transformers and all kinds of things happen across board.
Maybe I can add. You see, there are too many. Even when I was there, there are too many violations, and that's why we set up zonal offices when we're there, because you can't regulate what's happening in Warri, each household from Abuja. But when we left, I think NEC has closed it up. But again, the solution would be like in the US. You can have states regulate consumer aspect of electricity. So what that means is that, like in America, they have the PSU, Public Service Commissions, whose job is to deal with customers. So if NEC issues a regulation, tariff approved, those states, company, agency, should be the one. So if this complaint happens, like I said, don't worry, okay, quickly, or Delta, worry. So the agency that is using next regulation, the tariff, to now protect customers. So they are closer, because customer complaints are retail complaints. They are very, very micro. You have to follow it through. Even if NEC intervenes, and I've seen people call me and complain, even I'm off, I call NEC people, they're responsive. They answer me quickly, to talk to people, but nobody will follow up. The disco will say, I'll do it, they will do it. So I would think that these complaints are very common, and they are correct. But you see, the regulator, the model we have where states are not actively regulating consumer side of the utility makes it weaker for NEC to go to village in Sokoto, Yola, to control the stores.
All right, back to the phones. We have calling in from Lagos, Kazim, right?
Yeah, Kazim, yes.
Yes, Kazim from Lagos. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, go on, Kazim.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for the program tonight. Yeah, I see the problem really with this electricity in Nigeria. The distribution companies are not doing enough. I am a customer under Ikeja distribution company. I live in somewhere around Ekpe, and I can tell you, in the last 2 weeks, we have not had electricity, and even for them to even send a message to tell us what is actually happening is difficult for them. The youth in the community have taken them to engage them severally to make sure that meters are given. They did not do that. Estimated billings are coming day in, day out. You will not have electricity for a month or thereabouts, and they will bring humongous bills to you. In fact, I don't know why you are praising Ikeja Electricity that they are doing something. They are not doing anything. What they have been doing is to rip off the customers, and that is how it has been happening. And I don't know if the federal government has scrapped this code, they should do that, because the purpose for which they are being set up they've not been able to achieve that. Communities provide transformers, community provides poles, and what the annoying part is that after you are providing transformers, you are providing poles, you are providing transmission lines, they will say this thing you have to hand over to them without giving compensation to the community. I don't know where that is done anywhere in the world. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Kazim from Lagos. Yes, well, at this point, let's bring in Kunle Olubio, who is the Nigerian Consumer Protection Network person on this discussion. These calls that have been coming through, if you look through them, you find virtually the same complaints all through, and they have been there for years. What does that say?
It boils down to the issue of regulatory gap or regulatory ecosystem. It's about regulation. The essence of it is that you have the demand side of the market before you can have the supply side. If you don't have the demand, you can't have the supply. And now the regulatory institutions seems to be more on the side of the supply side than the market demand side of the coin. Take for example, I spoke about capping. To a layman's language, let me bring it down to the language of the people on the street. Capping means that you go and do verification of XY location, what is the amount of money or average energy being consumed or being billed on those that are meter within a given area. You can use about 40 household or 100 household, and you then use that as an indicator to determine the average consumption pattern for that area. That is the essence of capping. You keep a threshold to encourage the distribution licenses to meter the customers. The issue of national mass metering or intervention by government, one of the basic commitments of the privatization by the investors in quote, the service level agreement, is that they are going to meter customers. If you go to the grocery, you don't use your money to provide metering devices. If you go to the first attendant in the filling station, they have their measuring instrument for cost recovery. So it's about return on investment. So it's not our business to provide meters. Now, from the point of transformer, that's what we call telemetry. Between January 2022 to date, generation has dropped on the average to 2,000. You look at the Nigerian Gas Association saying that there are legacy debt of over $1 billion US. And so they've not been given the right kind of gas to the thermal station. So what we call the gas constraint. So between January to date, national grid generation have been between 2,500 to 3,500 megawatts for a country of 206.1 million. The UN benchmark says that 1,000 megawatts to 1 million people. And South Africa is just a population of about 64 million people. And they are generating over 50,000 megawatts. Egypt is equally about 100 and something million, generating over 50,000 megawatts. Nigeria, with a population of 206.1 million, picking a load of 2,600 megawatts. So if you now have to ration such supply, definitely issue of band A to E had to be reviewed or collapsed. It's not practicable. It's a short change. So if those places that from the grade report, from the system operator report, from the market operator report, from the general sector-wide report, it is on record that between January to date, because of the gas issues and other issues, generation has been between 2,000 to 3,000 megawatts, except the last 3 days that we've had maybe close to 3,800 or 4,000 that we have seen improved supply. Now, when it is glaring on record, from the system record that generation has been low, the transformer, during the COVID, that we were not even getting supply, why can't the discos or NEC go to the transformer and do diagnosis analysis of the supply? Because from the what we call the network to the transformer, there's a meter. You see a box there. The supply that goes in and out to the household is supposed to be taken. So if you don't give us supply, how do you arrive at the quantum of allocation or distributed power to that given area, which you will now, after you take out the metered customer, you will now share among the estimated something? It's supposed to be, even though it's not scientific, the telemetry attached to each transformer has made this scientific. Now, the discourse and the regulator, as partners in consumer short change, from the consumer point of view, we are being short-changed. There is no need or there is no point for customers billing that are estimated to be arbitrary. Now, NEC, in its wisdom, after so many years of advocacy, came up with capping. But regulatory capture means when a regulator give way or give room to the overwhelming pressure of those that are supposed to be regulating. So that is the reason why we are having all these complaints. Take, for example,
Back to the phone lines again and taking this call from Patrick. Patrick is calling from Abuja here. Hello, Patrick. Patrick, are you there?
I'm still there.
Yes, please go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm still there. I can hear you.
Yeah, now go on.
Yeah, good evening, sir. I want to appreciate your work. Been hearing from you since when I'm small. Now, I want to comment concerning this power holding. So, this power holding of a thing, is there any way they can change the name from power holding to a different name? Because like as if the power holding is the major problem we have in this country. Because they are really holding the power to themselves.
Well, Patrick, if you listen, the era of power holding is gone. You have Gencos and Discos now. So power holding doesn't exist. All right, go on. I'm sure Dr. Amadi will tell you more about how it is. Go ahead.
So please, I want to ask Dr. Sam Amadi a question. Now, the question is, I want to ask Dr. Amadi a question. Is there any way that Nigeria can privatize their life in form of a network? Like for instance, the way we have Glo, MTN, and Airtel. Like for instance, if any of these networks messed up, you can easily switch, because it's like as if we have one particular network. That is the reason why these people are playing with us. Now, I want to ask, is there any way they can do it like that? Because in other countries, that's what they do. If this network is misbehaving, they can easily switch to the other network. Because for the past 1 week or so, the area I am, there's no light. If not for this Salah, since on Saturday, there have been light. But I believe today, after today, there won't be light again.
All right. Well, Dr. Amadi will respond to that.
I think he raised an important issue, which is the issue of choice, which is important for utility. So we have our telecom. I mean, you can port. You can actually, even if you don't want to port, you can actually buy a new SIM card. Now, this is the design of the industry. In market economics or in economics, for you to be able to have choice, you have to have enough suppliers and buyers. So if one person is selling this cup, producing this cup, you have no choice, technically speaking, even though nationally you have choice, because there's nowhere to get it. So because our sector is, Kule said, 206 or so million people estimated, sharing 3,000 megawatts or 3,500 stable average. So we have low supply. Therefore, the network is more like centralized. Power is shared from one source, the Oshobo National Control Center, where the dispatch happen. Now the market, I talked about the National Electric Power Policy. It says that when this deregulation has worked, liberalization, I will have many IPPs, independent power producers. The NEC now has to unbundle again the DISCO. So there'll be two levels of unbundling. The unbundling of DISCO, GENCO, transmission company. Then later, you will now break the DISCO, then separate what we call wire business. Just like, I'll give you an example. If you go to Europe, you see train. There's only one train line. That train line is managed by a train company. But different people put their train on that, or express route. Federal government, it can't build to Lagos about Express or Abuja Kaduna Express. Okay, one express road, maybe toll gates, but then you have Isuchuku transport, Tuko transport. Each of these transports carried cargo for people and ply that network. So the area we ought to go where this policy envisage. It's where you have Abuja Disco providing the lines. Then Samamade Power Company can come to you and say, I want to supply you power. So he buys power from the generator, carries it through Abuja network, and said to you. Now, if you don't like them, you switch. You go to Kunle Power Energy. Kunle says, okay, if they're supplying 3 naira per kilowatt hour, I'll give you 2 naira.
Yeah.
So that's where we get to choice. But that's to have choice, you have to develop enough power to trade. Right now, we don't have enough power, so we share it. So when there's enough power, this company called Kukunle can decide to be taking their supply from Kanji. The other person, some other company, takes a different place. So the quality of customer care, how they respond to you, how they give you subsidy, can make you switch. So we're going to go to until we get to where consumers have choice. You won't have efficiency, and you're going to have all these complaints.
Now let's come to this recent takeover, if we were to call it that. The banks, financial institutions have come in now and what is the import of that on the system? It started off with Abuja, and now we've gone on to other Benin and the rest of it.
I think 3 things. The first thing is, first, these are transactions between the investors who borrowed money from the banks. And what they did was to pledge the share of their own company. So this is the way it works. The power sector says you can't pledge. If you want to buy...
Okay. All right. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, if you want to buy Abuja Disco, you who is buying cannot pledge the asset of Abuja to buy. So you pledge your own company. So they went to their companies, borrow money from the bank, use their own shares. So what the banks are doing, bank says, okay, pay us. They are not able to pay, basically. And the bank now step in to take over those companies and now say, because this money is for Abuja, they now want to also take over Abuja so that they can have where they can recover the money to pay themselves. Right. But it's not generating a conflict around who has the right to do that. But by the way, what NEC and BPE cares about now is to make sure that none of this affects customer service.
Okay.
And that will not happen.
All right. We have Good Luck calling in from Port Harcourt. Hello, Good Luck.
Hello, I can hear you.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm happy for what people are doing. God bless you people. Please, I want to ask, is this really car for sale or I don't understand. So in Port Harcourt, if you go to buy meter, they will give you price. So I want to know, is this for sale? Yes, you know that for some time now the power is at the spot. So I want to know whether the meter is for sale. Thank you.
All right. So the meter, you go to get a meter, you buy it. Perhaps Kule would help us to answer that. Hello? Yeah, maybe Kule Olubio would have an answer for that. This is the question dealing with meters, the metering initiative. Yes.
By side, you have the one they call the zero phase of national mass metering program, which federal government injected 250 billion naira and is ongoing. I think it has been paused for a while for review. It's expected to commence in August. That is the phase 1. But what we have at the moment is called the reform map meter asset provider. What the meter asset provider entails is that when you go to any of the discos within your franchise and you buy a meter, like I said earlier, we don't provide meters for petrol stations or other people to recover their money. So it's not our business to buy meter. But if by peradventure you buy meter, the regulation entails that the refund through electricity token or credit, you know, the type of credit you load on your meter over a 36-month period. We are forced to, times without number for that. And so when you buy meter at any amount of money, single phase or 3 phase, you'll be refunded with electricity token over a 36-month period. We still expect that they will still give us some jara like interest because we are investing. If they go to the bank, they know how much they will pay for spreading our money for 36 months.
Where would you know? Is it happening anywhere? Kule, yes, interesting point you've made, but is that happening anywhere? Would you know? You've just explained if you have to buy a meter, then the process which you load that meter, and you've talked about a kind of refund, right? Over a 3-month period, 3-year period. Is that happening anywhere? Would you know?
There's a NEC order of August, that is harmonization of national mass metering with MAP. There's a NEC order of August 2020, which is quite clear. I recall that some of the discos were so silent on this. You know, we talk about gaming the system, estimation and what have you. And as soon as we got in touch with some officials of NEC, they did a pull out for us, and we press it on the discos. And no disco is arguing about it. And it is on record that in the last 2 months or so, Ikeja, Eko, and Abuja Electricity and so many others have commenced the refund, which is the right way to go. And so 36-month period, but we are still asking for our JARA because it's an investment that we are injecting in the sector.
Okay, so from the point of view of the financial institutions stepping in, let's go over to Donald Willie Etim and say, how does that now reflect on the services, the quality of customer care that people are going to get?
Thank you, Cyril. As a matter of fact, I think this program for me has been quite instructive. If you permit, let me take a few steps back and address a few things, then come to the issue of the takeover and customer care issues. I am happy that we have had questions, comments, and observations from Abuja. So few from Abuja, quite frankly. From Benin, there's Warri, 2 from Port Harcourt, and then from Lagos, and everywhere. So what this speaks to is the fact that the problems we have are common to all the discos, to all the operators within the ecosystem. That said, I go to the guy that called from Warri. I feel so bad about his situation. He was out of supply for 7 months. He gets a transformer and then they bring a bill. So speaking to him directly, and then the guy that also spoke from Port Harcourt, where you feel aggrieved, there are grievance resolution platforms available, stated by law, and it is your right. One of the problems we have in Nigeria in this sector is that customers don't know their rights, and part of the indictment is on us, the discos, because maybe we are not doing enough, just enough to make sure that they know their rights. So to the guy in Warri and the other guy in Port Harcourt, there's a NEC forum office that you can apply to. You take your problems and you go there, and they are neutral, independent in their assessments of what the challenges are. Where you've been wronged and it's documented, there will be some form of redress. So wherever you are listening to this program, be aware that the distribution company in your area has NEC forum offices, and these are just set up for you customers exclusively to go solve your problems. Beyond that, there's the issue of the guy that's called from Ikeja about communication. There are several levels of communication involved. Every disco makes an attempt to communicate. From Abuja Electricity, we do a lot of communication as well, but it's not enough. So we are coming from a situation where there were, when the direction or the directive was after 12 hours of out of supply, you communicate. And internally we said, no, this is not good enough. We cut it down to 4 hours. But 3 weeks ago at Abuja Disco, we took the initiative and decided if there's an outage now, we'll do an analysis of how many people are involved, at a certain lower threshold of number of customers involved, we will communicate with them. We send them SMSs, we put out notices on social media, we do everything. We give them phone calls just to say we are aware you're out of supply. Even when we don't know the problem, we say we are looking for the problem, we will solve it.
Okay, well, we'll just ask you to pause a while. We have one call coming through, which might very well be the last tonight, and this one is from Ada, calling in from Jos, one of the regulars on this program. Hello, Ada, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, go on.
Good morning, Cyril.
Go ahead.
Why is it's Ada calling from Jos Plateau State?
Yes.
Why is it taking too long to meter everybody? If everybody is metered, it will put an end to estimated billing, which is causing a lot of agitation. An average Nigerian is ready to pay for electricity used and not for darkness. No matter the increase in tariff, any rational thinker knows that it will still be it will be cheaper than using a generator. If you ask me, power should be decentralized. We should move away from national grid and allow each state generate, transmit and distribute its own electricity. This will make the governors to think outside the box to search for other sources of energy. It is very embarrassing for us to continue to have incessant grid collapse. Another issue is some government agencies and so on owe the discos huge sums of money because they do not pay immediately for power consumed. This must stop. Power is key to the growth of any economy. If there is steady power, it will create an enabling environment which will attract investors to set up industries and what have you, and which will allow the economy to be private sector driven, and this will pay jobs for the teeming unemployed youth. This will also help to reduce the crime rate. We are not interested in all those technical terms such as band, load shedding, a megawatt. What we want is mega light. God bless you. Let's not give up on this country.
Thank you very much, Ada. Well, you heard what they want is mega light and not the megawatts, which brings us to as we begin to wind down this program, brings us to the question she raised about the national grid. In the past 2-3 months, the term collapse has become everyday language. We hear of the grid collapsed and people are wondering what's going on, what's this frequency. Sometimes we're told that it's as a result of vandals, and other times there are just no explanation for what's happening. It's gone so embarrassing that you have places in this country. I'll give you a typical example. Niger State is known as the power state, but there is almost no power in Niger State with 3 hydroelectric dams. How do you explain that?
Very pathetic. But then again, whenever you hear a system collapse, it tells a story of weakness and frailty, basically. It's equivalent of having a house in Lagos where you have a lot of collapse. Okay, you build a house with sand, not properly mixed, and it keeps collapsing. But practically, the system is weak. This alone, we had some people put about maybe 20 or thereabout partial and complete system collapse. So what that tells us is, look, there is, apart from the normal historic legacy problem of no gas, generation is low, discos can pick their load, transmission network has frailty, but there's also a great degree of inefficiency and weakness in the management of the grid now. If you improve grid management, you can have occasional collapse. Maybe once in a while, something big happens and you come back. But if it's incessant, as we're having now, it means that there's an entrenched inefficiency in the distribution and transmission, value chain of that sector. So what can we do in the short term? I've always argued that this is a time for the government to bring back what we used to have in those days called Presidential Task Force on Power. Now, the task force on power will not change the structural problem, but it will help each, like Enugu Disco now, Abuja Disco. Everybody who has a task, they can bear down on you. That's sometimes these operators are lax, or the regulator is lax, or the policy person is lax because everybody gives up, people take it easy. But if you have a task force that's dedicated and focused, they will make people optimize. So let me put it this way. it's just like when you have an old car that you need to replace and expand. The engine is 1.8, okay? If you put a fuel on time and do regular maintenance of that car, and know when to clean it up, when to rest it, you can actually use it optimally for the next 2-3 years before you expand and get a better car. So what we're having now, we have a small car. We want to expand, but even that small car is not being taken care of well. So we need to upgrade the discipline of the operators, the discos, the generators, and the transmission. And to do that, I think you need to improve regulation, improve policy, and I think a task force that is people who are competent, who are not beholden to the customer, like Kunle said, and who have authority to name and shame and force people to do the basics while we take a more holistic and comprehensive review of the sector.
All right. Well, Kunle, it's up to you now. Let's see.
I was a member of the National Technical Investigative Panel on Power System Collapses, System Stability and Reliability. And Dr. Sam Amadi was a member of that committee to represent NAC. From the point of system, what we have now are mainly system maintenance engineers. The days of power system engineers in the sector, their place is very, very important, and we seem to be losing sight of that. As simple as a leaf, if it touches the grid, it will burn and the line will go off. That is transient fault. The system is weak, obsolete of infrastructure, non-investment, obsolete infrastructure, where you're supposed to have different layers of system protected devices. If you don't have them, of course, if you have a vehicle, you don't do your regular maintenance or what have you, the result is known to everybody. So a whole lot of even mechanized vegetation control, we are not doing so much on the system investment, where you're supposed to have a system protection that's supposed to come as an interface. If you don't have them, if you don't have what we call the reactors and what have you, so it's a whole lot of issues. Another thing is installation of substandard equipment on the network. Take, for example, the Ayede transmission transformer that became an issue. The one that was installed in 1970s is still there, and the recent one that was brought in from Asia, China, and so many transformers that we have lost on the transmission network. If you have a 75 MVA transformer and you now label it 150 MVA, for example, if you load a load of 150 MVA on it, of course you will have issue. So equipment labeling falsification, TCN more than ever before needs to subject all its installation facilities, equipment, to the regulatory institution. The NEMSA address a lot of issues. When you even have power swing, the monolithic nature of the grid, this grid is just a single grid. When there's an issue in a particular part of the country, it will push the load to the system and everybody will start shutting down their network. So that brings us to the issue of sub-regional management of the grid. At different regions, we can break down the transmission network to sub-regional management for efficiency. Nowhere in the world do you have a single radar grid and you expect that you will not, and you don't invest and you expect that you don't have system collapses.
All right, thank you so much. So this might continue for some time if it's not really addressed. So, well, let's come to Donald Willier team. And yes, the question of the grid. And for you, there are two direct questions, we would say. And many consumers in Abuja are wondering, is it that Abuja Disco cannot take the amount of electricity that consumers in Abuja would require? Or is it that is less than Abuja Disco can purchase. Which is the problem here?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. The problem here is that we are allocated daily less than what the Abuja Disco franchise area requires. So, in specific terms, maybe for the past 2 weeks or 10 days, we've been getting maybe plus 4 in the area of 420 to 470 or 480 megawatts per day, in a situation where Abuja Disco franchise area itself should be taking or using optimally about 1,000 megawatts. So it is that the power is not just available. However, we are not folding our hands to look at it. Remember, in my opening comments, I had mentioned that we are currently in discussions with developers that can give us embedded supply and some mini-grid solutions.
But finally, this question for you, and as Chief Marketing Officer, I believe that you probably would have heard the term that's now going back to the issue of metering. You probably have heard that many people call this new meters, the smart meters you have now in homes, they call them the unarmed bandits, for the simple reason that, no sooner than you load those meters, you run out of units and you have to keep. And there are people who allege that it is because of the way those meters are programmed. They're programmed to harm the pockets of the consumers. What's your take on that?
Nothing could be furthest from the truth. Those meters, as a matter of fact, in this whole business, from the consumption point of view, the meter is the only innocent, neutral arbiter between the supplier and the consumer of electricity power. The meters are configured under international best practices, and where we find a lot of times people complain, it's because they find it difficult to bypass these meters, or once they do it, we get to know, because those meters have been acquired. Technically speaking, we can see the meter remotely from our system. So it's not configured to hurt them. It's not configured to game the system. It's a business we are running, not a casino.
Anyhow, well, since, again, that might be difficult for many people to take, since you do the programming, you say you do them under strict regulations, but who cross-checks to find out, Dr. Abadi, who cross-checks to find out that these meters are programmed the way they should? Because it's a general thing. People have shut down so many things. They've stopped using electric burners. They've stopped using electric cookers. They've stopped using ACs. And everything, because they just can't bring their bills down.
I don't see it. The problem is, look, those meters, by the Metering Act, the NEC has a metering code that provides functionalities of these meters. Then NEMSA, there's a testing center before these meters are deployed. But you see the problem is, you see, every of these have regulatory process, but then it doesn't exclude the gaming of the discos. So discos have the capacity to calibrate the meters faster. The same way some customers who are technical can calibrate it slower. But see what happens in regulation. A regulator punishes misbehavior fiercely as a deterrence. So if NEC follows one case and discover that NEC has experts, so they go there and look at the complaint, they discover that meter has been kind of calibrated just to be. What it does for you, even because if they are caught, that's what the investors, then we don't regulate them, then this is cap. So they do alter meters. They can alter it, even smart meter, but then they know that it's criminal, it's illegal, it can be punished. I'm not sure they do, but they can.
All right. Well, there's so many things to talk about, and if we decide to go on power issues, we might be here until in the next 48 hours. But we have to leave this conversation at this point and say a very big thank you to our guests, Dr. Sam Amadi, Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts, and a former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Authority, NERC. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks to Kunle Kola Olubiyo, President, Nigerian Consumer Protection Network, member, Presidential Ad Hoc Committee on Review of Electricity Tariff in Nigeria, it's August 2020, and of course, member of the National Technical Investigative Panel on Power System Collapse. I think that was sometime in 2013, right? Good. Thank you for being here. And let's also say big thank you to Donald Willie Etim, Chief Marketing Officer, Abuja Electricity Distribution PLC. Thanks for availing us of your...
Good night.
And to all of you too, we say thank you for watching, and those who called in, thanks for being part of it.